Like paradise upon this earth, its wonders to behold, a gateway to the wilderness where all my dreams unfold, the changing of its colors as the clouds go floating by above the Rocky Mountains in the Colorado sky. The mighty river flowing in the valley of the pine, the shooting star in meadows on a summer's day so fine. The forest is alive with song, I watch the bluebirds fly above the rugged landscape in the Colorado sky. The seasons change so quickly, yet its precious soul remains, as wind does bring the snowfalls there upon the mighty plains. To see the snow-capped mountains with their peaks that reach so high, beneath the fiery sunsets in the Colorado sky. And that is a poem called The Colorado Sky by Andrew Blakemore. And with that, welcome to House Einstein podcast number 120. And with me is Hamish Crabb. I'm your host as well, Osman Parvez.
I've got like some peaceful piano music to the back of that poem. It adds to the imagery there. It's really solid.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing it when it's done.
Yeah, I can add some in too, maybe.
Oh, you're just imagining the peaceful piano music. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just in the back of the podcast, I've got some like little classical playing. But
Got it.
yeah, it's really
cool.
fitting. Yeah.
Well, it's fitting for the topics of this podcast because for the closing table, which is the core topic for the House Einstein podcast, we're going to be talking about Boulder summer and all of the things that happen in our community. We have chosen 15 of them and rank ordered them so that we can share with you what the most desirable things to do this summer here in the Boulder area are. And
Our
we're
rankings.
Rankings, and we're going to save the best ones for last.
And I think please pitch in. We'll say it more on the closing table, but we want to hear yours too, and if there's any that we missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And before we get started, there's a few things that we need to mention to you. This podcast is sponsored by the House Einstein Brokerage, but it is separate and distinct. If you're a client of the brokerage and would like advice on your specific real estate situation, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to help you. You can find us at houseeinstein.com. And if you're a listener to this podcast, and in particular, you're not a client, please do not make any real estate or other decisions on the basis of what you hear. This podcast is entertainment. And with that, let's jump into
our topics.
Yeah, the rest of our topics. If I sound a little fuzzy-brained, it's because I'm a little bit sleep-deprived. I don't know why I didn't sleep very well last night, but I didn't sleep very well. So you may get a little bit of a meandering Osman in today's pod.
I'll say to our... we're going to talk about the Boulder. I think we're still off the back of that and our Memorial Day festivities too. You know,
it was a very festive Memorial Day, but now we're back at it and in the trenches. And speaking of which, we'll have a tale from the trenches after we do our closing table topic. And then I will walk you through the most recent analysis of what's been happening in the market through the end of April. I know we're about to end May, but data is not quite accurate for at least a full week at the end of the month. So we'll be doing another one of these in the next couple of weeks with the most recent data, but this is enough to give you a good glimpse or understanding of what's been happening in our local market. And then we'll be hitting up sales of the week, or rather lessons from sales of the week. And this week we'll be covering the following properties: 9578 Mountain Ridge Drive, 751 Grant Place, 2360 Balsam Drive, 14754 Creekside Lane, 8438 Hygiene Road, and 903 Hover Ridge Circle. And we have a little segment that follows that we call Shameless Self-Promotion. For those of you that are my age or perhaps even a bit older, that is a direct stolen segment that used to exist in an NPR show called Car Talk, which was really popular in the 80s and 90s. and syndicated, probably nationwide. And it always used to entertain me. And so we've stolen that name. We're going to give you a little shameless self-promotion of either a client that's buying or selling or some other aspect of the services we offer at House Einstein. And then we're going to talk about the news. And in the news, Hamish has got on our docket the Boulder that just passed, and trail shuttles are back. We're also going to be talking about some restrictions on the trails for mountain bikers, and then more coverage of the ongoing battle between MLSs and Zillow, this time with some news out of Chicago. And then, Hamish, what are you talking about for your Carveout?
I've got this photographer which I stumbled upon through YouTube, Noah Kalina, and I'm probably just going to cover him, and he kind of talks about the creative process, so probably a good little discussion piece there. And you, Oz?
I'll be discussing some of the limitations of AI when it comes to diagnostics, and I'll leave it at that. It's been a bit of an adventure, and boy, it can lead you down the primrose path to the wrong conclusion. And I'm going to share that on not just diagnostics
so excited for this one.
for health issues, but also for automotive diagnostics, both of which have been led astray by AI this past week. So we'll share with you our AI horror stories from my own life. And that will be the end of the House Einstein podcast. So that's our docket for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We deeply appreciate your feedback and your comments. And hopefully we will do our best at entertaining you. Hopefully you shall be entertained.
You have no choice. You will be entertained.
That's what's about to happen. Entertainment. This podcast is sponsored by House Einstein. We serve buyers and sellers in Colorado, focusing on Boulder, Denver, and several mountain resort towns, including Breckenridge and Winter Park. Our mission is simple: help you make a smarter real estate decision. You can learn more at houseeinstein.com or our YouTube channel, where you'll find videos on neighborhoods, specific listings, and much, much more.
So, just as like a little preamble, I was having grown up in Colorado for some time now, coming out of like the winter where everything is dead and into summer, there's nothing quite like it, at least from my experience and like my memory, like how lush everything gets, and not, like borderline tropical. Like it just becomes the smell in the air. You just want to get out and do stuff. So I'm kind of really glad we're covering this as our closing table.
Well, having lived here for over 20 years now, I can tell you that we kind of get used to it as well. Like, Colorado is magical year round, but there's something about late spring and into the summer and then into the early fall that just delights the imagination. It is in one's mind's eye. You see these starry skies and cool nights. You see these beautiful blue sky days and the backdrop of the mountains, or you're in the mountains and hiking and camping and doing all these adventurous things. And on the Front Range, particularly centric to Boulder, there is so much going on. And I feel like it would be helpful to our audience just to hear our take on what they might want to consider attending, and also our ranking of the best stuff for the summer to come.
And I just realized we missed a pretty big one. So let's jump in. Should I save it for last, or should I bring it up now?
Oh, I don't know. Up to you.
4th of July, like fireworks shows.
Oh, we didn't put those on our list.
I know, that's pretty, right? Like,
pretty key.
Yeah.
Boy, where would it rank? We're starting with it. So we're going to call that number 16. 4th of July, Independence Day, fireworks shows. So, Hamish, you may have more experience with this than I do in attending these, because I didn't grow up in Boulder.
Yeah, I really only have like the Broomfield ones, so I can like lend a lot to that. I think you've probably attended a few of the Boulder ones. The Broomfield one, at least, it's held on the Broomfield Commons. It's like this massive kind of open space complex that they've got. And I mean, it in itself is a bit of a party. They've got live music, food trucks, all sorts of things, and everybody kind of pitches a blanket on the field, or a little gazebo, and sits and watches this. I think it's reasonably grand fireworks show, but then there's also a lot of competition, I think, between cities for who's got the best fireworks show. So you know?
I would say that's very true. And
Yeah.
here in Boulder, what our tradition has been to throw our camping chairs on our backs and walk up to Kohler Mesa from South Boulder. So we'll hike up through Table Mesa and onto Kohler Mesa, and just below Enchanted Mesa, which is right on the backside of NIST. The views are just stupendous, and you can see both Folsom Field, and you can see Longmont's fireworks display way off in the distance. And so that's always been a fun picnic that my partners and I have done and enjoyed. A little adult beverage, not technically not allowed, but these are the things that adults sometimes get away with.
It's Independence Day. it's in the
Independence
name.
Day, right? Like, it's pretty much a known thing, right? This is not a crazy party. This is a subtle, classy experience that combines a little bit of hiking with gorgeous views and an evening picnic with your loved ones. It's just and there are lots of other families and couples doing that. You'll also see people doing that in the field behind Chautauqua. So if you were to hike up Chautauqua in Chautauqua Meadow, you'll see lots of people also breaking the rules and throwing down a blanket on the open space and enjoying an adult beverage and a picnic while they watch the fireworks show. So it's sort of funny. I've never actually seen the fireworks show from inside Folsom Field. I've only seen it
And that's
from
where
our
it is
open
for
space.
Boulder? Yeah.
That's where it is in Boulder. And then there's also other events happening. Jamestown, for example, has a really fun Independence Day party in the little park in the town. And it is just, in years where there's not high fire danger, there are fireworks, but there are lots of other things going on, like log splitting contests and live music, and it's way smaller and lower key. So that's a hidden event.
That's a pro tip.
I probably shouldn't even be talking about it on the pod, because it really is a locals thing, and it's a very cool alternative to a much larger event. So if you've done Folsom Field or Broomfield's fireworks show or Longmont's, and you sort of want something a little different, I would definitely go check out the one in Jamestown. It is a lot of fun.
I think, and we've got 16 to get through, but Oz, to I think this year I'm probably going to do something pretty similar to, it sounds like your tradition. Like, I'd love to go up to somewhere where I can kind of see all of the city's fireworks shows at once. And I don't think I've seen Boulder, so maybe I'll be up on Kohler Mesa as well. But pretty special. I think, really neat.
It's a nice
and maybe
place to go with friends or a date. It's a really it's a different way to experience it. And of course, the kids, I say the kids, but they're often CU students, and high school kids are going to almost certainly get fireworks, and that's always distressing for the people with pets that are sensitive to it. And I don't know what else to say. I don't like it either, but that's one of the negatives of the Independence Day experience, that there's a lot of neighbors that get fireworks. So it is what it is, and I don't think that's going to change. But if you are into the public displays for fireworks, they are very cool ones here in Colorado.
The sanctioned ones.
The sanctioned ones. Okay, number 15, farmers markets. They've already kicked off. They kicked off in the spring, and they continue through the summer and into the fall. We have them. Pretty much every city has a farmers market. Niwot, Boulder, Longmont, Lafayette. Niwot's is on Friday. Boulder has it on Wednesday and Saturday. Longmont's, which is at the fairgrounds, is on Saturday, and Lafayette's is on Sunday. It's a great way to experience our local agriculture, as well as get farm-to-table quality food. And it is just a delightful experience here in the summer. I will say that Boulder's is really popular. And it's popular both with the locals and with people visiting Boulder. So for many years, it was a tradition. Anytime we had a visitor stay with us, we would take them to the farmer's market on Saturday morning, because you catch a little live music, you get to experience a little art, a little farmer's market stuff, and it's just a fun thing to do in the summer.
Yeah,
so
with all these days, I mean, if you're into fresh produce, I don't think there's an excuse given how many cities are running one.
Or fresh meat, right? There's not just the produce. There's local grass-fed, local ranchers with box freezers of their meat products. There's cheese products. It's lots of, Okay, it's not cheap. I'm going to say that if you're looking for a deal,
you're paying that premium.
you're paying a premium to buy it directly from the farmer, and you're really supporting these small businesses, small agricultural operations. So the right way to think about it is you're getting extremely fresh, high quality local content, produce and agricultural goods, right, directly from the farmer themselves, and that means something. So we are strongly in favor of farmers markets.
Yeah, big time. There's Broomfield's got one too. I mean, just having grown up there, I feel like I have to shill a little bit. I don't know exactly when it is, but it's like right off of 287. And compared to the other ones I've seen, I'd stick to these guys. Yeah.
Okay. Stick to the ones not Broomfield.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so tiny. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So number 14. This just passed. So if you're listening to this is mostly for next year. But the Boulder and Creek Fest is a giant party in our city on Memorial Day weekend every year. And this year they actually sold out the running slots. So if you did not sign up in advance, you were out of luck because they were at full capacity for the Boulder 2026. It is so much fun, whether you're running or walking, or even if you're, I think, being pushed in a wheelchair. It is an amazing experience. The positivity, the costumes, the playfulness, the whole city celebrates this event. I mean, yes, there are some people on Reddit that will complain about the lack of ability to exit from their apartment for a few hours. There are inconveniences to suddenly having 70,000 people partying in your city.
Shocker. Yeah.
Which we're going to have every day during Sundance. So I guess get used to it. It'll happen in February too. I don't know if it'll be anything like the Boulder, but the Boulder and Creek Fest, which is downtown, it's arts, it's food, it's music, are a big part of the kickoff to summer. And that just happened here in Boulder.
I think my faux pas has always been I'll attend the Boulder, and then I think be so tired or either just done that I didn't even think to like go to the Creek Fest or anything like that. And I saw it on a friend's story recently. And I was like, that looks like a whole party. Why am I missing out on that? So I plan to go next year. Yeah.
I think it's a lot of fun for kids too. The rides they have look like a blast. And so it's a family-friendly event that happens all weekend. And I'm going to add one more piece, that the Boulder is not just a race. At the end of the race, there is a ceremony. Every year there are new recruits for all of the armed forces who take the oath of service. There's a remembrance of important veterans who've passed and their contributions. There's a flyover. There are skydivers who dive into Folsom Field. It is... It's not just a party. The end of the ceremony is very, very touching and meaningful to remember those that have given up their lives in service to our country, and that I think is an important piece of the whole experience of Memorial Day weekend here in Boulder.
Yeah, good point. And, missed the flyover this year. Did you get to see it?
I did, and it was sort of funny because it's always been, as far as I can remember, it's always been fighter jets. And
really?
This year it was a single C-1. It was a single C-130, and I'm like, are all of our fighter jets like somewhere else right now? What's happening? But that might be the case. So it was kind of funny to get the C-130, but still, I mean, very cool to have that.
And those things roar. You know, there is such a unit of an airplane anyway. They're kind of neat. Yeah.
Okay. Number 14, Arts in the Park. So, boy, there are so many of these events in the city. So this is right at the bandshell. And the Boulder Ballet and Symphony have multiple dates. Some of them are coming up right away. So the Boulder Ballet is performing on the 30th of May and the 31st of May. The Boulder Symphony is performing July 4th. These are free events. They're right downtown, practically adjacent to the Dushanbe Tea House, and lovely ways to spend the evenings here in Boulder. And then there's a whole bunch of other community performances and events that we'll put a link to the description, but if you want to see what the bandshell is supposed to be for, this is Arts in the Park is a great way to experience that. Anything to add there, Hamish?
I rarely, if ever, see the bandshell utilized, so it's cool to see that happening. You know, yeah.
All right,
might have to attend one.
Our next one is the Colorado Music Festival. So for a full month, from July 9th through August 9th, there are performance after performance that you can check out and catch and enjoy. And I don't know, how many years has the Colorado Music Festival been going on? It's sort of astounding. You know, we only have a city of 100,000 people, or 107,000 or so, and we have such a lineup of amazing performers that you can enjoy right here in the city. So we'll put a link to all of those. Are they all in the same venue? I don't think so. I think they kind of move around. What are the venues?
It looks like I'm trying to find the age of the festival, but that might be a more pressing question.
I mean, there's a lot of details here. I mean, the ticket prices are very reasonable.
And you've got like Canadian Brass, Free Family Concert, Tchaikovsky. Yeah, some really cool ones.
They're at Chautauqua Auditorium.
Oh, cool.
And are they only at Chautauqua Auditorium? No, I think they're in a couple different spots. This is one of the interesting things about our city is that you get interactions between CU and Chautauqua and city-owned venues on the regular. Like, these types of things typically are multiple spots, but I'm not actually sure. So I'm like flipping through the website to try to... Maybe you could flip through it, Hamish, while I hit the next one.
Yeah, see where they're located? Can do.
All right, so this one is more of a hidden locals event, number 11, and that's the El Dorado Springs Pool. If you've never been, it is worth it for the scene. The price of entry is very reasonable, and on a hot summer's afternoon, on a weekend, going up there to enjoy the pool and the vibe, it's $25 for adults and teens that are 13 and over, $15 for children that are 12 and under. They've got a snack bar that now has beer and wine, and it's just, it feels like a throwback, like what you might expect the world to have been like in the 1950s when the public pool was kind of the highlight of outdoor entertainment. And that's what it feels like. So what we've done in the past is actually ride our bikes right from Boulder to the El Dorado Springs Pool. So kind of make a round trip adventure out of it. Bring our towels and obviously we're in our bathing suits. And it's just a cool experience to see this venue and think about how long this thing has been in operation. I think it goes back a really long way because for a while this was part of that health. There was a period of time when Colorado saw a lot of people coming here for treatment of tuberculosis. And there was the sanitarium here in Boulder. And I think this is also of a very similar vintage. So it looks like it first opened in 1905. And people were coming to soak in the healing waters of the springs. And so a pool was built. The hotel was built, and it's to see that still in operation today is really something. So we'll put a link to the history of the resort. It's worth checking out. I think of it, I mean, I don't know. Maybe kids are going to complain about anything, but to bring them to something that's kind of just... Kids love the pool, okay? Like, I've got 12 nieces and nephews. They are so into the pool. And this is a particular kind of a historic experience at the same time, and also a little bit off the beaten path. So if you have the time to do it, I would strongly advise checking out the El Dorado Springs Pool.
Yeah, you might see me at a few of these, listeners. This is almost my now punch list of Boulder and summer events to get through. So, yeah.
All right. The next one is really interesting, and I would say it is something that mostly the locals know about. And I would say not even all of the locals are aware that this happens, but throughout the summer, there are concerts in our community park, and they're parks, plural. They're put on by the Boulder Concert Band, and they rotate. So they start off in North Boulder Park. That one just happened this past weekend. Next weekend, or in a couple of weeks, on June 15th, they're in Martin Park. June 22nd, they're in Foothills Community Park, and so on. They cycle through all of our parks, and they are a live concert band performance. People will bring their camping chairs and their picnic, and it's just a lovely summer's eve kind of experience with something that, in this day and age of constant entertainment and screens, it is you're just enjoying the outdoor summer evening and amazing music by a full concert band. And I think, they ask for donations. I don't know how else they're supported, but it is a wonderful experience to see this community organization come together and put together this performance. So I usually go to a few of them. Like a group of my friends will do this Sunday slow roll bicycle ride. It's sort of an offshoot to the Thursday cruiser ride, and we'll gather. There's only usually like 20 of us, and sometimes we'll couple it with like an arts and crafts experience. Like people will bring painting supplies, and at the end of the day, it's a picnic with friends and family with lovely live music. So we'll put that out on our show notes as well.
Yeah.
Hamish, you haven't done this, huh?
No, and it reminds me a little bit, I think, the Louisville Street Fair kind of, music in a park. But, there is, and I don't know, maybe I'm just shilling for Colorado too, but there's something to be said for like the evenings in Colorado too, especially during the summer, where it's like 9:00 at night and you have that like just a dusk rolling in and the day's heat has dissipated and like cool air. And then, getting, these are local kind of neighborhood parks. Like you just get to step outside and enjoy the music and kind of the atmosphere is really special. So it's cool. It just, like you said, Boulder's only however big, but it's full of creatives and the arts, right?
Absolutely. All right, number 9 is the Chautauqua Summer Series. So if you're not already aware, Chautauqua has a giant auditorium. It's a huge barn, and that barn has for the last month or so been under construction. They are insulating it and installing a heating system. It's really an expensive upgrade to the auditorium, and that's going to enable year-round concerts, and in particular it's going to enable the use of that facility during Sundance. That's probably the reason it's getting these upgrades. But during the summer, historically, what people have done is go to a concert whether or not they have a ticket. And because it was a barn, it was too hot in the evening to hold a concert, so they would open the side walls completely open, and people could hear the music whether they were in the auditorium or just next to it. So the locals have for many, many years, maybe decades, have been picnicking outside the Chautauqua Auditorium for free and catching shows like the Indigo Girls and enjoying a summer's evening without actually being inside the auditorium. But that all changed a couple of years ago. I'm not exactly sure when they changed it, but they installed an air conditioning system, which I think is actually a giant evap cooler. When I look at it, it's not a normal AC system. But that's allowed them to close the doors. So the sound quality on the outside is no longer quite as what it used to be. But people definitely still enjoy the summer picnic and the free concert. Or you can actually pay for a ticket and enjoy the concert inside. But now it's going to be year-round. So if you want to get a kick start to what that experience is going to be, we're going to provide a link to all of the summer concerts. And there's some really cool ones, like the Wallflowers are coming. The Robert Cray Band. I've never heard of Daka Braka, but they sound interesting.
Definitely some I haven't heard of. Yeah.
The Jayhawks I've heard of, and of course Herbie Hancock, world-class performer, and the Cowboy Junkies, which I think I'm going to buy tickets for because they are one of my favorite bands of all time. And Chautauqua is such a vital part of our event scene here, the options for venues that bring people together for music or cultural events. I saw Ralph Nader speak at Chautauqua when I first moved to Colorado in 2000, and it was really moving and not on a teleprompter. Ralph was very...
Rare now.
Yeah, very rare to see politicians not on a teleprompter, but Ralph was very motivational, and at the time, well, we're not going to talk too much about politics, but at the time, let me just say that I voted in his favor and was a strong supporter of what he was trying to help us achieve back in the day. And seeing him live was part of that reason, just because of how well-spoken and intelligent he was. And Chautauqua, having that amazing, beautiful venue available was part of it.
I was going to say that backdrop and the Flatirons and everything being right there. And then the historical significance, too, of Chautauqua and the history behind it.
It's such a cool venue, the auditorium. And there's also other venues up at Chautauqua. There's stuff happening all summer long. And Chautauqua amenitizes that entire neighborhood. It isn't, from a
True.
walkable perspective, there's so much going on that you can just stroll to. And Chautauqua's being right there at the heart of it. You also have to deal with a lot of public, right? There's a lot of people that go to Chautauqua to go hiking, and it is the gem or jewel of Boulder's outdoor scene.
It is, yeah. And then Ye Olde Shakespeare for, what is this, number 8.
Number 8, Hamish, have you ever been to the Shakespeare Festival?
I have not. I can't lie, I don't have a huge interest in Shakespeare, but maybe I haven't given it a fair shot.
Well, this festival has been going on since 1958, and Shakespeare is not for everybody, right? I feel like the storytelling really, it either hooks you or it doesn't. And when it's performed live is very different than, say, reading a Shakespeare play, but or a Shakespeare story, or a story based on an adaptation from Shakespeare. But it's the classics, right? This is the foundation of so many stories that are just rehashed versions of Shakespeare. There are some people that don't even believe Shakespeare existed, that human is actually mythical and an aggregation of stories that became Shakespeare. I don't believe that. I think William Shakespeare actually existed. And this year...
I was actually going to ask about that, see what you thought. Yeah.
This year, I'm actually going. So Leah bought some tickets, and we're taking friends, or we're going with friends, and we'll be enjoying some Shakespeare in a couple of weeks. So I will report back on my firsthand experience after 20 years of never attending the Shakespeare Festival. We are going this year.
I'm excited to see the story and stuff as well.
Yeah, and it's part of CU, so you're right in the heart of the city. It's a great venue, it's a great spot, and it's, again, supporting the arts scene here in Boulder. Number 7, Hamish, is the Boulder Comedy Festival, and this is only its second year. I happen to know that this is the brainchild of comedian and trainer of comedians, Zoe Rogers. So Zoe actually teaches stand-up comedy as well. I've taken her class. I'm not particularly great at stand-up comedy, I learned, but at least I got through it. And the comedy festival sometimes features some of her best performers. Let me see who she's got lined up this year. And if there are any people I recognize in the stand-up lineup
for right now,
because there's one in particular. Oh, looks like he's performing. Sam Shea is one of our clients, and his neurospicy comedy is absolutely hilarious. And I've seen him develop it over several years, and it is now to the point where it is really good. So I would encourage you to see Sam Shea at the Boulder Comedy Festival. It is coming up in the month of June, only its second year, and absolutely worth attending.
Yeah. He's funny, even just working with him, you know. So,
he is very funny.
His comments. It's great. That's I would have thought it would be running for more than 2 years now, but that's really cool. I gotta see if one of my comedian friends, he should start going there. I'm surprised he's not.
Well, anybody that's new to Boulder or has lived here for a while soon discovers the amazing network of bike paths and multi-use paths all over our city. And some of them are adjacent to roadways, but many of them are not. We have hundreds of miles of it here in the city of Boulder, and we don't just celebrate it one day. We have Walk and Bike Month in Colorado, in Boulder, and there is a Bike to Work Day that's part of Walk and Bike Month, where many vendors come out and will feed you and give you all sorts of freebies all over our bike path network. And it is absolutely worth attending. That's coming up on June 24th. It starts early in the morning and continues through the day. And if you haven't done it before, you should bring your bike and then bike to work for that last half mile, just to experience how our city celebrates this alternate form of an important form of transportation for our community.
I remember in the neighborhood tour Arapahoe Ridge video that we did, I think you were talking about Boulder having some of like the best bike infrastructure in the country or in the world, and like to be able to celebrate it's very cool. This one you don't have to pay tickets for.
That's true. That's true. Unlike so as part of Bike and Walk to Work Month, or at least happening at the same time, is another event called Tube to Work Day. And so Tube to Work Day, which is on June 26th, does require a ticket, of which a good portion of the funds are going to nonprofits here in our community. In particular, I think the Bridge House is the big recipient for donations at Tube to Work Day. But people get dressed up and then get on an inner tube and ride down Boulder Creek on Tube to Work Day. And you will literally see people wearing suits and holding old laptops on their wet inner tube as they go down the creek. It is hilarious. It is fun. It is playful. My only piece of advice is, well, two pieces of advice. Prepare to have fun and don't drink the water.
Don't drink the water.
Do not
seriously
drink the water.
Yeah.
But have a lot of fun, because Tube to Work Day is such a gem of an experience. I mean, it's this event, Tube to Work Day, is a throwback to some of the weirder stuff that Boulder used to have happen, including kinetics, which we no longer have kinetics as an event. Where on Boulder Reservoir there were races held by art that also were flotation and moving in the water, and there were teams. Someday I hope we can bring kinetics back, but for some reason the city killed it. I don't know how many years ago they killed it, but it was a long-standing tradition in the city. And Tube to Work Day is basically the closest thing to what kinetics used to be, in my mind, in terms of an experience.
Yeah, I could see it. And I'll say there's required safety gear. They're not going to let you tube down with their name unsafe. So it's bring your own tube. You must have closed-toe shoes, life jacket, and a helmet with a chin strap. So you can wear your suit and have your prop laptop, but be safe.
I will say, having tubed on Boulder Creek several times, that you should definitely wear a helmet. You should wear a bike helmet. And closed-toe shoes would be a smart idea too. Although I think you could get away with chacos, but they want you to be wearing old sneakers. Probably not a bad idea. And it's just right through the center of town. This event happens. It is a lot of fun. Okay, number 5, Hamish.
Okay. Well, quick sidebar. You know the tubing. I only know the tubing kind of. I think it starts slightly in Boulder Canyon, and then stops probably around Broadway. Does it keeps going through?
It keeps going through. The creek keeps going.
Yeah.
I don't know where Tube to Work Day officially ends, because I haven't done that event with an inner tube. I've done that event as a spectator multiple times, because I think that's where a lot of the joy is. But if I was a college kid, I would totally be on a tube. Or it's all ages. I just have chosen to watch it rather than ride it personally.
I like seeing the creek from afar, personally.
We used to go several times a week with my golden retriever to take him swimming. He used to love swimming in Boulder Creek. So that was a regular part of our lifestyle for many, many years. Yeah. All right. Well, what's next? Hamish, 5. I think number 5 is something I've attended a bunch of times, but having worked in Louisville, maybe you have more familiarity with what makes this so special.
So I'm thinking about this, and I'm wondering, because I used to lifeguard for the Memory Square pool that was just downtown in Louisville, or still is. And I know actually we had a Memorial Day opening ceremony that was every year. But I'm wondering, I remember guarding on Fridays and hearing the festivities and stuff from the fair. I've been a few times, but I don't think I have a direct connection. That said, Old Town Louisville, if you haven't been, even without the street fair, which is every Friday, it is kind of a magical, old, kitschy place to be. And then on Fridays, it really kind of just bursts to life. So there's kind of a bunch of floats that come out onto the street with all sorts of vendors and food, and kind of just events that happen. I know it's pretty music favored as well.
Just check out the vendor list. When you see how many vendors are supporting the Louisville Street Fair, that alone should be your tip-off on how much fun this event is. And it's cherished. Parking is difficult, so you're usually parking many blocks away and walking in. And the highlight of Louisville Street Fair is the concert in the evening. But beside the concert, there's so many different vendors selling so many different things, and it's family friendly, so it's a great experience. There are many concerts. I've been to March 4th a couple of different times, and March 4th isn't just like a bunch of people on stage. They are into the audience in their performance. So it is just a lot of fun. I would strongly recommend it. It runs from 5:30 to 9:30, and is it on Friday or it's on Saturday, right? What day is it the week?
I thought it was Fridays.
I'm not confused. Look at the dates. June 12th, June 19th, June 26th. So those Fridays or Saturdays? I'm pretty sure they're Saturdays.
Get back to June. 12th, 19th. No, they're Fridays. 12th, 19th, and 26th.
So Fridays in Louisville. You go check out the Louisville Street Fair. It is absolutely worth it.
And as a note, I guess here they're saying, please don't bring alcohol. The sales kind of fund the fair, the alcohol sales. So, support local business with your alcohol purchases.
But a lot of people do bring picnic, and so it says don't bring chairs and blankets, but at least under the pavilion, anywhere under the tents or the pavilions, and. There's some rules that are for courtesy and legal reasons that are on the website that are important to follow, but there's lots of places outside of under the tents where I've seen people set up for the evening and enjoy the experience. So you should go at least once this summer to the Louisville Street Fair. It is absolutely worth it.
For what it's worth too, I think circling into real estate, if you're looking at kind of where you want to purchase or the community you want to be in, I think all of these events are kind of a very nice way to go and be involved and see how these neighborhoods and areas interact and kind of what stands out as special to you. I mean, Louisville, we talk a lot about like the family community feeling. So, I mean, that'll be present, but then a lot of these other Boulder ones too, you're going to get the same thing.
Louisville is like Boulder without the college students. It is small town Americana, historic downtown, all these events happening, and very much beloved by the community that lives there. The town also usually shuts off around 9 o'clock at night because it's a family-friendly town, and it's not a town full of late-night bars like Boulder has. There aren't a lot of tourists that go just to Louisville. But you will absolutely get a great sense of the community by attending a street fair or other events that happen throughout the year.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right.
This one's kind of new to us.
Well, I've known about it. New to you, baby.
Oh, you have? Okay. It's very new to me, yep.
So Niwot has free dancing throughout the summer. And it's called Dancing Under the Stars. We'll put a link onto the website. And if you're not aware of Niwot, don't be surprised if you've never even heard of it. Niwot, of course, is named after Chief Niwot, but it is an unincorporated community that looks like it's incorporated. And it has a historic downtown. It has a shopping plaza. It has very affluent community and large luxury homes. It's got a great high school. It's right on the tracks, and it has this event that occurs throughout the summer, and the type of music changes. It goes from salsa to swing to disco, and again back to swing and salsa. There's even polka nights, and there's a barn dance hoedown August 14th. It is a lot of fun. From 7 to 7:45, you get free lessons, and then starting at 7:45, there's free social dancing. So it's in Cottonwood Square in Niwot. It's a great way to learn about this community. We often drag our clients to Niwot just to give them an alternative to Boulder because you get larger houses at lower prices, and you get great schools, and you get this historic downtown, and you get a shopping plaza with lots of options for retail, and then you get community events like this Dancing Under the Stars that happens all summer long, and it's a great way to experience, I think, kind of old Colorado, right? Like the way Boulder might have been 25 years ago. I think these type of events still linger on, and this is definitely one of them. Okay.
What of these salsa, swing, disco, what's your pick? What are you gonna do?
Well, we are out of town in late August, so that kind of limits us. But the barn dance hoedown sounds like a lot of fun. I don't actually own cowboy boots, but I'd like to get some, and I would do it for the barn dance hoedown. I've taken swing lessons, and so I know how to swing dance and salsa dance.
Oh, nice.
Disco just sounds like a fun costume night on July 3rd. I'm thinking
disco.
Yeah, disco could be a lot of fun. We have family in town over the Independence Day weekend, so that could be a great a great kickoff on July 3rd to Independence Day. But there's a bunch, right? Like even the country night, September 11th, sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. We've got to correct the no cowboy boots. I really would have thought you'd have some by now.
Nope, not yet.
TBD.
The only challenge here is that it ends at 9:30, and lately I've been in bed by like 8:30 and asleep by 9, but we'll see. Because I start my day at 4:30 normally, not today.
Maybe that night air,
Maybe something will keep me going. All right, now we're down to our final 3. You stuck around all the way. These are the top 3 events of the summer. And our first one, number 3, is Band on the Bricks. Sponsored by the city of Boulder, right downtown on Pearl Street. They set up like this enclosure for the drinkers, which is kind of funny. I don't know
like
why.
A little pen.
Yeah, there's like a drinker pen, and then there's a non-drinker area, and it is just it's a big party with great bands all summer long. And historically, they've been on Wednesday night. Let me see. Are they still on Wednesday night? I got to cross-reference my calendar.
Yeah, it says Wednesday is here, June 10th through July 29th.
Yep. And so June and July, you can see Hazel Miller. She's been performing for a long time here in Boulder. But there's a whole bunch of other bands with all sorts of different sounds. So we'll put a link onto the website. It's a great way to perhaps have a bite to eat in Boulder, catch a beverage, and get a free concert sponsored by your tax dollars.
And this one, I mean, the setting too, right? I guess being on Pearl Street kind of adds to that, getting it to number 3 and the lineup too.
Yeah, you're right downtown.
Yeah.
There's so much going on downtown. And then there's Band on the Bricks, which is just a big party. All right.
The more we look at these,
I feel like you could party every day of the week in Boulder throughout the summer, because we're going to
so.
We're going to soon be talking about a different day of the week. But our next one, before we go there, number 2, is relatively new. Last year was the first Roots Music Fest, and this year is the second one. We're talking about over 800 artists, 20 plus venues throughout the city from August 27th to August 30th. Leah and I went last year and had so much fun. It was so cool to bounce between these venues and capture and see so many artists we never would have heard about before. And if you're not familiar with Roots Music Fest, it is by Boulder Roots, which is a 501c3 who is trying to encourage emerging talent that will impact our community. So, there's been this gap for quite a bit of time. Boy, I know a bunch of these board members. I'm looking at the board and I'm like, oh, I know that person, and I know that person, and I know that person.
You're in the community through and through.
I am in the community for sure. And if it wasn't happening at Burning Man, I would be there. Absolutely, because it was so much fun last year. And this is so needed. What this nonprofit is bringing to our community to encourage emerging artists, because there's a giant gap, right? Like, prior to these guys being here, right? We used to have Penny Lane. We used to have more open mic nights. We had other venues to perform. Today, we still have the Trident, which allows newer artists to use their facility for small scale concerts. But there's been a gap between these, between when Penny Lane disappeared, and maybe Connor O'Neill's and Trilogy. There were events that allowed emerging artists. They've sort of dried up, and the Boulder Roots Project has brought that back. And their stage is fantastic. Their space is fantastic. It's sort of more on the industrial side of Boulder, on the east side of town. But they regularly host really cool artists. So it's not just the music fest. It's actually the nonprofit itself. But get tickets. If you're in town, get tickets to the Boulder Roots Festival. It is a hoot. And you will absolutely see some really cool new artists when you attend. Yeah,
that's great. Something to bridge the fledgling artists with an audience, right?
Yeah, to encourage and support them. To make it affordable for them to have a place to perform is what they're trying to do, right? Because it's unlikely a new artist is going to make any money on ticket sales, right? So they really are trying to help these artists get found. Mm-hmm. All right, number 1, you've waited a long time, and this is our number 1 tip for the summer. It has been going, so the actual origins of when it began are disputed. But I could tell you that
all good things are.
My first experience was 26 years ago. And so it's been going on at least 26 years, and some would say over 30. And that is the Happy Thursday Boulder Cruiser Ride. Every Thursday throughout the summer, a community of wacky cyclists get together, and they used to just ride. So they used to be literally cruiser bicycles was what people did, and they had bells, and that was the extent of it, right? People might bring a portable music boombox type thing, but that was about it. It has been so much more than that for the last
Oh my gosh, yeah.
for at least the last 15 years with really loud sound systems, and also people that are passionate about keeping it alive, organizing it, making it safe, having regular dance stops, making sure that where we go is not going to annoy the neighbors. So the route changes all the time. So if it's one night you happen to catch the cruiser ride in your park at 10 o'clock, having a little mini dance party, they're not going to be back next Thursday. And there are usually people that stay behind and clean up. So there's encouragement to leave no trace. There's encouragement to be safe, be lit up. And it is for a community-run event with no real formal structure. The informal structure or container that keeps the cruiser ride happening at, let's call it 30 plus years, is fantastic, and have really been a good leadership lab for those that are learning about leadership, trying to become better leaders, and we've been blessed as a community by having so many of them step up. There were periods of time where the cruiser ride went underground. It was getting policed, and the police were combative, and then the community of riders have figured out how to self-police. And so for the last few years, the police mostly leave the cruisers alone. It's only when they get called. They're no longer planning to be on the ride with us. They just show up if they're needed. And that's been a lot better relationship between law enforcement and the cruiser ride. So it is family friendly, but if you do bring kids or pets, people do ride with their pets. I used to ride with my golden retriever on a trailer. You may want to remember there's a lot of people on this ride, and there's going to be a lot of diversity on this ride. It's an adult. Does lean toward adult themes and activities. So if you do bring kids, you probably want to think about exiting the ride before it gets too dark and head home. Because I'm not sure the later parts of the ride are appropriate for younger kids.
Yeah. I'll say, like, maybe the fact that it's kind of unorganized and it had an underground and now it doesn't, and it's community led, is part of why this is number one. For me too, Oz, I think I've been on one or two, maybe three with you now, and every single route is new, and I always see a part of Boulder that I hadn't before, either just driving through or cycling. It's completely different. So I really love this one as well. And linked is the Facebook page, and on their cover photo you've got all the dates and then the themes. And so for you, listener, the next one that will be that you'll be able to go to is Cruiser Prom, and that's June 4th, and then Wild West and Pride and Rainbows and the Roaring 20s. So I mean, it's a party, especially if you've got a lot of costumes.
I will add that sometimes there are two rides. Because the adults have done their best to try to separate from the high school kids that have, at various points in the last 30 years, adopted the ride as a thing to do for fun in the summer with their friends. And the adults want nothing to do with the high school kids that are drinking and crashing their bicycles. So if you find yourself on a ride with a bunch of high school kids, you probably are on the wrong ride. You probably have stumbled upon the remnants or ongoing nature of the high school ride. And I want to add that I in no way condone underage drinking, although youths, right? This is what youths are going to do. It's summertime. There are far worse things for them to be doing. And if you are interested in the adult ride and the more family-friendly ride, check out the link that we will put in the description. That gives you what you need to know on where the meetups occur, what time, and what the theme is. And if you are listening to this, you are invited. Also,
one more tie back. What better way to get to know the neighborhoods than bicycling through it and seeing it at night?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, and the last thing we're going to talk about is a couple of resources for you to consider. And one of them is the Boulder Events app. And that is a project by somebody I happen to know who has built some AI to basically search for events that happen throughout the year and put it into a easy to digest website or app for you to check out. It's free. It lists a lot of these events, and it's absolutely worth checking out. It's at boulderevents.app. And the summer activities page, Hamish, that you linked to, I don't know what to say about this particular entity. It's nice to see all of the events that they have listed on the page. So this is on bouldercoloradousa.com, which I think is sort of a... I'm not...
It's like
it's one of these...
boulders? Yeah.
It's one of these websites that I think has like evergreen type content typically, and then often sells advertising. But I don't really know much about...
Fair point to make.
Boulder.
Yeah.
I don't know much about bouldercoloradousa.com, but I will say that this events page is actually pretty good. So we'll put a link to that where you can see some of these events.
Yeah, where it hit on the dining and the like the Boulder Res and a few of those things. So I was like, oh, that's good to have in there. But since you shared that boulderevents.app site that your friend made, like that is for me at least the go-to. And especially like putting together the show notes and stuff for that was just incredibly robust and user friendly. So yeah, I'd love to see something like that for everywhere. Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our closing table topic, Boulder summer, how to enjoy the most of the season and all of the different events. Almost every day of the week, there's something going on here in our lovely community, and you just got our take on it. So maybe we'll see you out there.
Hope to bump into you guys. Yeah. And now this one. What's the how can we craft a segue for this one?
Tales for the Trenches? Mm-hmm. Well, you got our warm and fuzzy, and now you're going to get the other side of House Einstein, which is due diligence and learning. And it's really important that as an organization, we foster an attitude of learning. It doesn't matter how many years we've been doing this, and as a team, we've been doing it over 40, but there's always something new to learn. And we had a recent situation where we represented the buyers, and a well-known agent represented the sellers, listed a home, and our clients acquired the home. And after they acquired the home, they discovered asbestos tile underneath the carpet in the remodeled portion of the property. And the seller had not disclosed that it was asbestos tile. So it's very common for homeowners to mitigate asbestos tile by just covering it with carpet or other types of flooring, right? Because it's only when this material is broken and becomes airborne that it's dangerous. Otherwise, it's still a wonder material, right? It doesn't burn, and it's really durable. And not all types of asbestos are necessarily dangerous, so you really have to test the suspect material to find out whether or not it is asbestos containing. It could be the tile, it could be the mastic or the glue material that stuck the tile down. And you can't tell by just looking at it. It can also be ceiling tile. It's not just floor tiling. It can also be in the drywall compound or in the drywall itself, which is why if you have an insurance claim, the first thing they do is check for asbestos because they can make a lot more money if it does contain asbestos than if it didn't. So
that's great.
And of course, concern over your health. And it is a scary thing because these fibers are so small. Your lungs don't have a system for evacuating the fibers, and they cause cancer over long periods of time. So anyway, our client
most commonly popcorn ceiling too. Yeah.
Very commonly popcorn ceiling for sure. And after closing, our client discovered this tile and asked us to check with the listing agent on what the seller knew about it. And the seller said, oh yeah, we knew there's tile down there. We had it tested. It's negative for asbestos. And we reported that back to our client, but there was no asbestos report. And there was caveat in the language, as I recall. The seller said, to our recollection, it doesn't contain asbestos. And that struck me as a little fuzzy. And because we're talking about potentially hazardous material, we want to have... it's reasonable to go get it tested, and it's not that expensive if you take your own sample. So our client decided to go ahead and get it tested, and surprise, surprise, the material that was thought to not contain asbestos does contain harmful asbestos. And now our client's going to go ahead and have it mitigated, but they're a little bit annoyed that this was not disclosed to them prior to closing. And I don't disagree with them. Of course, we're not here to make the disclosure on the part of the seller. We had no idea that there was tile underneath the carpet. But in this age of home, particularly in South Boulder, but really any home that was constructed prior to probably 1985, I would think has asbestos somewhere. And it's extremely common for basements and lower levels to have had this tile flooring, and it's extremely common that people, rather than remove the tile and the mastic and have it professionally mitigated, they'll just have it covered with carpet and call it good, right? They'll just move on because it's encapsulated. It's no longer airborne, and conveniently forget that it was ever there. Then maybe they never tested it and they don't really know.
Right.
So what's a buyer to do? And I think that the lesson from this experience, first, we should add that it's not an agent's duty in Colorado to be doing their buyer's due diligence. But at the same time, and this is the foundation for House Einstein, we feel like we should be advising our clients to the best of our ability. They're still legally responsible, not us, at due diligence, right? At doing their due diligence, but we want to support it. And if you think about it, if you see newer flooring or flooring that might be covering another material, there's no reason you can't ask the seller, what do you know about what's under the carpet? And maybe you do that once you're under contract. You should probably do it formally in an email to the listing agent. But it's not a bad question if there's any reason to suspect that there might be asbestos-containing tile or popcorn ceilings. Before you schedule the inspection, you can ask. And so what we usually do is have a list of questions, right? Let's get all the questions in one and submit it formally to the listing agent to go ask the buyer. And then we'd like the answer back in writing so we can provide it to our client. And that might be an indication to go into further due diligence on ceiling tile or floor tile. Or if they say, yeah, we have tile under the carpet. When we remodeled, we threw down carpet. We never had it tested. Well, I think the next question is, can we pull up a corner and test the tile? And if they say no, you can choose what to do with that information, right? You could terminate the contract.
You go from there.
If you have left that exit open, you could decide that it's not that expensive to mitigate floor tile, so you'll deal with it yourself once you're after closing. There are multiple options for how to move forward at that point. But I think the lesson from this particular experience was we saw the new carpet. And if we had thought about it, it would have been a reasonable question to ask before the inspection period in the contract expired, ideally, and absolutely before the due diligence period expires. So sellers are required, and their agents are required, to proactively disclose known defects with the property. Very rarely do we get any sellers disclosing anything. So take that with a grain of salt. But when you ask the question directly, suddenly they feel the onus of liability. And if I'm the listing agent getting this list of questions and I submit it to my seller and they call me and say, God, I don't know, what should I tell them? I'm going to tell them what you know. Like, if you know that is asbestos containing tile, you should tell them that. If you don't know, you should say there's tile underneath there. I don't know what it is, but be prepared for them to ask if they can go get it tested. Because it is a serious health concern. It is something to worry about. Not all forms and not all cases, but buyers are spending a lot of money and they're going to do their due diligence. So
they ought to.
They ought to. And if you knowingly are concealing something, I feel like your liability is much higher than if you proactively disclose, right? You're better off to proactively disclose. If you're not proactively disclosing, you absolutely should be answering these questions to the best of your knowledge. That you're getting from a buyer, and agents, including us, need to use their eyes and all of their senses and their experience to guide their buyers to asking better questions. And so that's the biggest lesson of this one, is that in hindsight, I wish we had asked before the inspection period was over about what was under the new carpet. And that's all it is new carpet. There was nothing else to see there, and now we know there was something under the new carpet.
That's the real lesson about it. Is like, okay, we've got this flooring. And then what's the one step beyond that, right? And asbestos is a tricky one. I've mitigated for it from a popcorn ceiling standpoint. I'd like to imagine that tile might be a little bit easier. But then again, you're breaking up this tile and breaking up this mastic. Like, that would probably be a ton of effort too.
I mean, the professional mitigation companies have specialized tools and techniques to do this, and they're not grinding it; they're chiseling it out. I paid to have it removed once, even though the tile was coming up by hand, and the mastic tested negative. And I was like, I know it's asbestos, and I want the professional mitigation, so I have a chain of custody, right? I have the report that says it was asbestos. I have the report that says it was mitigated. And if I ever go and sell that house, which someday it might be sold, I can say, yes, it had asbestos, and here are the receipts that show it was professionally mitigated. Period.
Yep.
And it sucks because the guys that typically men, but the people that do this work often drive really fancy pickup trucks with big belt buckles.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a lot of profit in your sphere of asbestos. And it brings out a certain type of contractor. Not all of them, okay, but I'm saying that there are certain types of contract work on houses that tend to be more lucrative than others, and asbestos mitigation is one of them.
Environmental in general, right? Like just, yeah. That's almost maybe a topic or a thumbnail or something. It's like shiny truck, on these contractors. But
if it's underground or it scares you, it's a profit source for the contractor. Sewer lines, foundations, asbestos mitigation. Radon is not. Radon is so cheap and easy to mitigate that it is not like those guys don't typically drive fancy trucks, but the other subspecialties, they drive fancy vehicles because it's super profitable. The smart ones don't bring the fancy vehicle to the appointment. But
no, right? They show up humble. Yeah. But oh man, I don't know. As maybe a sidebar, but we had these clients last year, and I recommended them the environmental testing company that I'd used, referral from a friend who worked at a mitigation company, and they had just an absolutely horrible experience, which really bothered me. Being that I recommended them.
Did you circle back to your friend who recommended them and tell them about the experience?
He no longer works there. He lives in Arizona. Yeah.
Sometimes people recommend others because they're friends. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate friendship and loyalty. I have incredible loyalty to my friends. But when you're recommending somebody on the basis of professional service, it needs to be first the professionalism of the service and was it priced appropriately? And then also you can say at the end, and I also want to mention this person is a friend of mine. But if you hear that if they did not do good quality work for you, I need you to tell me, because I'm going to give them that feedback, and then I'm not going to recommend them again if they don't change their ways, because we can still be friends. We're just not going to be we're not going to be sending you referrals if you're not taking care of our people.
You lost that trust, and that was the bummer too. So it wasn't his company; it was the company that he uses. And in my experience, it was just in and out. I think it was $500, and it was solid, right? All done. But then, these clients, it sounds like they wanted payment before the work and all sorts of weird extortionary things. So actually, now that you bring it up, I will bring it up with him too.
I think you should. Yeah. I think that feedback's important, because that the person they recommended, I heard the stories too. They sounded like crooks. And they behaved very, very badly, and it was embarrassing for me hearing what happened to our client. I was very upset by that experience. But if we don't get the feedback, you don't know that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And so, we have a great Rolodex of contractors, and each of them knows that their continued existence in our network is predicated on them not screwing our clients. And not ripping them off, and showing up on time, getting the job done for the bid they said they would do. They don't necessarily need to be the cheapest. They need to be ethical, honest, and do good work. And they need to charge a reasonable price that's competitive. But they don't need to blow away everyone else's prices, because there are so many contractors that are crooks that knowing that this one's not is important. And so we have that Rolodex, and every once in a while it's the client that's the problem. Right? It's a client with expectations, but not with these guys. It's super rare, because if our client's going to be a problem, we don't give them the list. Like I hate to say that, but we're actually protective of our referral network too. And if we discover that this client is never going to be satisfied and is verbally abusive and doesn't pay their contractors,
oh my gosh,
we're not giving them our referral list, because they're going to, like, I don't want to send people. That's my agreement with one of our handy people, that the only people I'm ever going to send you are people that are pleasant, ethical, pay on time, are not unreasonable people. They will treat you well if you treat them well. And that has worked out well for many years.
Yeah. I was, sidebar over, but that was a bummer. I was very excited to, be able to like add them to the Rolodex, and then just hearing come on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you blew it. I once had a lender, this is my first year in the business, who added a bunch of fees onto our client's closing statement at the end, at the finish line. And we were like, what are these? And our client called us. They're like, we're getting like $3,000 worth of fees from the lender, and he never mentioned it. This is before all the disclosures, right?
Yeah,
The closing disclosure.
Yeah.
So this is years ago. This is 2005. We called the lender. I won't mention his name because he's still in the business. And we're like, what are these fees? He's like, oh, I'll remove them. I'll remove them. And he did. And after closing, he was so apologetic. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry. He begged to be back on our referral list several times after that. And we're like, absolutely not. I'm sorry, but this, like, your choice to be unethical and try to pad your profit at the finish line with our client just points to a lack of ethics and integrity that we don't think is fixable for you. Like, it's as a 40-year-old, we expected that you learn that lying is bad and cheating is wrong a long time ago. And the fact you're trying it tells us you're probably going to try it again, and we can't risk it. Sorry.
And that it existed in the first place isn't a great feeling. It's like, okay, we'll let you in, just don't rob our clients. Like, no,
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we used to call that our one strike policy. And it's not one strike like they screwed up. And if they own the mistake and they fix it in a way that feels right for everybody involved, and if it's an honest mistake or a miscommunication, that's very different than a business model that's based on fraud. And that's what this lender was doing. He was like, okay, we're two days from closing. They can't choose anybody else. So I'm going to sneak in these thousands of dollars of fees and hope they don't notice. And boy, they noticed.
Dude.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's so scummy.
He originally told them these fees are normal. They're part of every transaction. And our clients are like, what? Really? And that's what they asked us about. And we looked at this. We're like, none of these fees are normal. What is going on in this transaction? And it was astounding that this lender tried it. So I'm not going to mention his name, but boy.
I mean, that's an idea for another topic, is fees in general. Because, I mean, we're getting asked now by title companies if we have any, like, admin fees and office fees and all sorts of things. So
and the only reason we're getting asked that is because other agents are charging them. So when you choose your agent, make sure you ask them about any office or admin fees that they try to tack on at the end, because 100% those are not necessary. Like, in addition to the commission, you're paying $500, $1,000, $1,500 office admin fees, and it's like, wait a minute, that was supposed to be that's what you got paid the 2.5 or 2.8 or 3% for. You weren't getting paid like enough. You're going for like these add-on fees, and they're not regulated.
Like,
I could make up the Osman's got a bill to pay fee and have the title company add it on as an admin fee at the end, and then you could say, wait a minute, I don't want to pay this, and we'd have an arm wrestling contest over it. Of course, we don't do that, right? But you could. There literally is no regulation around the fees that we can add on.
It's insane. Okay.
In the state of Colorado, under our current regulatory environment, I need to caveat that subject, that we work here in Colorado, not other states. And other states may have better regulations than Colorado, although Colorado is pretty forward compared to most states.
Good caveat.
All right, let's move on to our market update. And I'm going to try to get through this on a relatively quick basis. But I feel like it's been a while, and instead of using generic data, we're going to actually, well, not generic charts and graphs or just reading you the data. I'm going to walk you through a visual of a research report I have maintained for many years, and I'm going to share screen, and we're only going to look at the city of Boulder, and we're only going to look at single-family detached houses. We're also using MLS data. MLS data, in theory, is arm's length. and more accurate than if we had pulled all the data from the tax assessor to create the same chart, because data from the tax assessor may include non-arm's length transactions. So these are deals on the MLS that were conducted by licensed real estate agents. All right, let's.
And I want to say too, as Osman gets visual with this podcast, I will, for the listeners, put a link to the exact time code that this starts in the YouTube version of the podcast. So if you want to listen through it, but then actually see these graphs, check the description, click on that YouTube link, and it should just take you right. Call it here. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Hamish. This is the actual Excel file I use to track data in the communities that I serve. And we're just going to cover City of Boulder, not Boulder County. The City of Boulder is within Boulder County, but we're only looking at the city, and we're only looking at single-family houses. All right. The gray shaded area in this chart is the average of the preceding 3 years. So this is a monthly chart, and then it's showing you what the average of the last 3 years has been. And the chart is a look back over the previous 12 months. So it ends with data in April. And in the next couple of weeks, I'll update this for the data from May, but May is we're currently in the month of May. So this is the most recent official data from the MLS. And the yellow line...
your standard deviation. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yep, the yellow line is the last 12 months. So the yellow line is the most current data. The gray area is the average of the past 3 years. And then this little white bar is the standard deviation. And this first chart is the City of Boulder and the number of new listings to have hit the market in the last 12 months. And boy, what a normal looking chart. There's only a few months where we've been outside the standard deviation of the last 3 years. And it wasn't April. So the market has normalized when it comes to new listings coming on. And then this next chart, we're only going to look at the left one. Sorry, the one on the right is not updated. Okay. This is the number of active listings in the City of Boulder. Wow. Same information. The shaded area is the average of the previous 3 years on a monthly basis. And the yellow line is the last 12 months. And you can see the seasonality. No surprise. You see active listings start to begin to dip, usually in July, sometimes in June, and then it slides down where active listings drop to their bottom, usually in the month of December. You know, it's rare. Like here you see the average is actually higher in September. You know, and in many years we've seen it peak in May or June, but in this particular 3-year look back, it was September that had the peak. But look how wide the standard deviation is. So we're not looking at you see the pattern, but there's quite a bit of variability in it, bottoming in December and then climbing out. And
December's got smaller deviation to it too. Much smaller, yeah.
Much smaller deviation. So I can tell you that active listings are much higher in the month of May already. We know that. But look at the gap between the average, and they're all outside the standard deviation. So the short answer is that this data is showing you that inventory levels remain elevated and remain significantly elevated, right? You're looking at, the peak of last year, which was September, you're looking at a number that's roughly about 250 or a little more than 250. And this year you're looking at, or the last 12 months, you're looking at a number that was over 350. So there's a lot of inventory still on the market is the takeaway. But as we often say, not at all price points, not at all locations. And this is the whole City of Boulder at all prices. And if you're actually buying or selling, you need granularity to this analysis in order to make an intelligent decision. And that's information that some agents are very good at providing, and other agents will just show you some generic stuff from the MLS. They're not able to give you that intel. And intelligent decisions are based on deep market knowledge. So don't skimp out on choosing your agent. And I guess I should mention House Einstein. That's what we do. So reach out to us if you're looking for that type of service. Okay, so the next chart, pending sales, right? So these are properties that are in active backup or pending status, meaning that they are under contract and they are headed toward closing. A good portion of them don't close. My rule of thumb has been roughly 20%. Will come back to market because the buyer bails for one reason or another. Maybe they weren't ready to buy, and that often is the reason. Or maybe they found an inspection issue that just can't live with. Or maybe they realize they're grossly overpaying and they look for an inspection reason to exit because they don't like the price anymore, right? So that's the type of thing that sometimes happens with transactions. So pending sales or not closings, but they're a good indication of what's going to close in the next 30 to 45 days, because that's the typical time period of most contracts. Okay, boy, I'm saying a lot. Shaded areas, 3-year average, right? The previous 3 years. Yellow is the last 12 months. White lines are the standard deviation.
Question for you. These standard deviation, are they taking the last 3 years of data, or do they go back further? Like, what's the standard deviation off of?
It's 3 years.
Okay. Wow.
So if I'm looking at the standard deviation of, let's say, the month of June, which hasn't happened yet this year, it's looking at June 2025, 24, and 23, and it's taking the standard deviation of those 3 data points.
Gotcha. Okay.
The average and the standard deviation of those 3 data points. But if we're looking at, say, February of this year, well, February's already happened, so it's looking at February 2026, 2025, and 20... No, sorry, I got that wrong. If it hasn't happened yet, it's looking at
it's looking
2,
at
3, and 4. It's looking... Yeah, it ends in 20... hang on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Getting this backwards, right? If it hasn't... So June has not happened yet. So it is ending in 2024, not 2025.
Oh,
that's because the last 12 months is the yellow line is 2025.
Right.
So if it's already happened, like it happened in February, then it will show you the yellow line represents 2026, and the shaded area and the standard deviation is 23, 24, and 25. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
it's a little confusing. It's confusing
kind of
when I said it out
intuitive
loud.
once you get it. Yeah.
Just remember, we're looking at the previous 12 months. Forget about years. Just the previous 12 months, and then the chart makes sense. Okay, so what are we seeing? Very standard pattern.
Sales, yeah.
We're seeing a very standard pattern of pending sales, and then you see a big and a weird pop in pending sales in October.
From last year,
and then everything kind of got back to normal. For the last 6 months, it's been a very normal-looking market. But there was a weird pop in October. I don't know what happened in October.
Where there an outlier, yeah.
Where suddenly there was a big percentage of listings went under contract.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unclear what
like
happened.
Sundance wasn't announced or something. You know, I'm trying to think of anything that would answer for that, but I have no clue. Yeah.
I'll also add that this is not expressed as a percentage. These are numbers, raw numbers. We will get to absorption in just a moment. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Curious.
All right. Next chart. Same structure. We're looking at sales volume, which some people confuse on their charts. Sales volume is the number of sales, period. Not dollar volume. Dollar volume is the number of sales times the closing price. That's dollar volume. All right. So the shaded area is the last 3 years of sold single-family houses. The white line is the last 12 months. And you see a little pop outside the standard deviation in March. But otherwise, a little pop outside in November. And that's about it. Maybe May of last year, it was outside of the standard deviation. But the pattern is kind of normalized. I mean, you're seeing like the upswing that normally happens. And there was more pending sales in March than there were in April, which is kind of unusual. Why is March an outlier? And we noticed that, I mean, we've been helping clients we always are helping clients,
nonstop.
But there have been quite a few bidding wars, and then recently things seem to have cooled down a little bit. So month-to-month variability can be quite, volatile for month-and-month activity.
That's what Sophie was saying too on our team meeting,
Anecdotally, we're seeing like what feels like cooling, but actually is right in the middle of, almost hitting exactly the average of the last 3 years for last month for closings. All right.
Almost bang on.
Days on market. I always take days on market with a grain of salt because people refresh listings. And I don't think the MLS is very good at filtering refresh listings, but we're looking at the median. The median data point should be more accurate than, say, average. So that's why I like this data, but I always take it with that grain of salt. And if you're buying or selling, you need to look at the individual properties and their sales history to get the full picture on days on market. But what you can see is that, as you would expect, days on market toward the end of the year, December in particular, has a huge pop. And that's because, these are January closings. These are properties that finally went under contract in December. And typically the stuff that's going under contract in November and December has been on the market a long time, and the sellers are capitulating, right? And so this is often when we see the biggest discounts, and you see days on market for those closings massively higher than the stuff that closed a month or two earlier or 3 months earlier.
Yeah.
So, and there's some takeaways here. If you're gaming the system, or if you're trying to maximize, you're trying to limit time on market, when should you list? Well, days on market is at its lowest for May closings, which translates to property that was probably
April.
Yeah, probably April is the best month of the year to list in the city of Boulder, with all other data points being the same.
And that same pop in March, right? Similar to, sold popped in March too, right? You just showed.
There was a sales pop in March, which is closings in March, and there was a little bit of a pop in days on market too. I don't know if it's not outside of the standard div, so I don't think it's significant Good there. Call. But okay, let's look at this chart, which is going to anger some real estate agents, especially the ones that go around telling you that prices never go down in Boulder, because boy, does this chart show you prices going down. And this is the median sold price. The data you're looking at is 2014 to 2026, and that's year to date, effective as of April. So this is the most recent data available. This chart is only showing you February, so it should be showing you all the way to May.
Is there any chance to get it slightly larger?
We could.
This one is the smallest one.
Yeah, we could maybe make it larger. I don't know why it's not advancing the date series, but they formatted so I could put this on social media typically. But what you can see is the median sale price, has this peak up here where it goes over 1.9 in February of last year.
Yeah.
February 26. That's reflective of more higher end houses selling. This is one of the reasons that I'm not crazy about the median sold price, because there's too much volatility with a small sample size. But the moment you look at this it looks better on a dollar per square foot basis. And
there you go.
And I even put a best fit line. And this one shows the right time series all the way to April. So this is median dollar per square foot, detached single family houses with a best fit line and an R squared of roughly 89%. So not a horrible best fit line to give you a trend line for the data. And boy, it matches our actual lived experience, where we saw market prices peak and then have started coming down on a dollar per square foot basis. And so the question for the buyer is, when is like this little S curve, where is the bottom?
Yeah.
And historically, Boulder real estate is not down for long. It's like down for short periods, up for long periods. That's been our cycle that's been our trend for a very long time. And in this look back, which goes all the way back to 2014, it looks like the question is for you as a buyer or a seller, is where is the bottom on the median dollar per square? And we've seen this in a bunch of different properties where a couple of years ago they sold for more money, and the listing agent and the seller don't want to believe it, that the market's even down. But we've seen it now so many times that that intelligent pricing is getting ahead of the curve, not behind it. But I think my hypothesis is that we're getting closer to a bottom than we are to, and then subsequently to a next upswing. And the upswings typically happen faster than the downs. Like, that's why real estate is said to be sticky on the downside and fast on the upside.
Right. These you've got April, January, October as kind of like a snapshot of each point in the year. I think that's pretty good.
It's a choice of, like, how do you show so much data? And we're looking at 3-month intervals for the units.
Yeah. Because you're showing, right? January typically right after December, very low inventory. April, it's building. October, it should have sold through to an extent.
And that might be the issue with this. There we go. The chart, the data didn't change. It's just that the timeline was displaying wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Question for you, really quick on this one. Maybe I'm putting too much weight on the best fit line, but it almost looks like there was a slight downswing, kind of 2014. You were practicing then. I wasn't. Do you remember kind of what was going on then?
So
Or is
we
it
had
kinda
a,
just how
we
the
had
best
a,
fit line
we
is?
had like 2 years of downturn from '06, maybe 3 years of downturn for the high end, '06 to '09. And then real estate was back off to the races. So there is clearly what looks like a slight down curve on this best fit line. You know,
I wonder if that's just how it is, like reading off of the window it's got, right?
yeah, I mean, we would have to go look back even further. And I do have this data. It's just
Yeah.
buried in different Excel charts. I have data that goes back to 2003. It's just, I looked at, I've been looking at sales data for Boulder in a long time. Here's the takeaway, Hamish. It's irrelevant. You can't
Yeah.
drive
No,
with the
totally.
rearview
I'm
mirror.
just
We're not going. We're not going back to 2014 prices.
Oh, no.
Not in this inflationary environment we're in. But one thing that I think is super interesting to talk about is that, and I'm guilty of saying this, real estate is a classic inflation hedge, and yet we clearly see prices moving which direction? Down, not up.
Yeah.
And so I think that is more of a reaction to the zero interest rate environment. Like we had a huge upswell in prices, and now we have two countering forces, inflation, and we have prices coming back down with oversupply, with more inventory than normally on the market, driving prices lower. But at some point, this should start to swing back
Something's
to the
gotta
upside.
break.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that you might be thinking about from a macroeconomic perspective is that, look, you've got great selection right now, particularly at the high end. It's a great time to negotiate a very good deal on a home that would have been more expensive 5 years ago. Almost certainly 3 years ago was more expensive. And now you can get it for a substantial discount, particularly above $3 million. And then once rates drop again in the future, because at some point we'll be in a recession again. And when that happens, who knows, 5-7 years, you remortgage the property at a much lower rate, and you may be ahead of the curve. Like, this is something to think about. But most people, when you're buying a house, are not thinking about the inflationary environment and the long-term economic picture of our country. But I can't separate it especially when I see a chart that surprises me that it's moved down in price that much. And during a time period that's been inflationary. So for this cycle, real estate has not been a great inflation hedge. If you started buying real estate, especially at the peak of 2022, if you bought it earlier than 2020, it's been a great investment.
You've been doing well.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, this is great.
So this next chart is absorption. So the way to think about absorption is that in any given month, there are a certain number of houses for sale, and a certain percentage of those are going to be purchased by buyers or absorbed by the market. So just like you have a shelf full of shaving cream at Target, every month a certain number of those bottles of shaving cream get sold. That's absorption. And to understand how to do that for real estate is I look at sales volume in the current month as a percentage of how much inventory was on the market last month. That's because you've got about a 30-day lag, right? Right? It's a good rule of thumb. And I've been doing absorption charts for Boulder for forever. And this particular view is showing you year over year. So January through December, the normal 12-month year. And yellow, I'm sorry for those that may be visually impaired. I don't know if I got these colors good for people that have visual,
super accessible.
I don't know how accessible it is, but 2023 is this first line yellow. 2024 is the blue line with the squares. Yellow with the circles was 2023. 2025 is the orange line with the diamonds. And 2026, which I just added, is gray with the very small circles.
Dots for now. Yeah.
Dots, yeah. They almost look like dots. Maybe I'll change that for
circles. But yeah,
I'll post it on Instagram. But one thing you can kind of see is that, there's kind of an absorption peak that happens between March and in last year it happened in June. But it's not always consistent. Absorption can still be reasonably high even in June or July, 40%, but not in these 55% peaky things. And boy, in 2022, you were seeing absorption rates that were like 60 and 70 and 80%.
Yeah.
But this year, look at how much lower it is. Absorption started off the year at 20%, 20.5%. And it peaked so far this year in March at 34%. Yeah. And then it dropped again in April. And we don't know where May is going to land. But overall, we're well below, except for 2024, we're below the last few years. So that's not a surprise because we have more inventory on the market. Sales are looking normal volume-wise. prices have come down, but there's still a lot of inventory, and that is why we have a lower absorption rate. And inventory gives you more selection, and depending on price range and location, you might get a better house for the same or slightly lower prices than last year.
2024 is crazy to see here, stuck in between 2023 and 2025. Those two are far more similar than 2024 on this one.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is how dead November is. This is why I like to travel in October.
Dude. Yeah,
like you see that October is like a relatively low month, and November is like, for the last few years, is like the slowest month in real estate. And then there's a bounce back in December, and I think that's because the bargain buyers are in the market, and there's a bunch of inventory that comes off the market in December because sellers are just so frustrated they kill the listing.
Yeah.
Which is why we advised last year to our sellers to not kill their listing in December, because there's so many others that have jumped out. You might as well stay active and have less competition.
Worked for a few of our listings. Yeah.
So another way of expressing the supply side of economics in real estate is months of inventory or months of supply, and that's based on a sell rate. And this particular version is not calculated. This is straight off the MLS, and I don't have their calculation for how they determine months of supply, so I'm just going to assume it's reasonably accurate. The gray line is still the same. That's this year. Now, unfortunately, I've made these little dots way too small, which I can fix really fast. All right, so this is the new and improved chart that we just fixed while Hamish was offline for a moment. And I'll make it a little bigger so that you can see it. And I've added shapes to the lines. I don't think they're exactly the same as the last chart, but close enough. The yellow line with the triangles is 2023. The blue line with the squares is 2024. Orange with the diamonds is 2025. And the gray line with the points, or very small circles, is 2026. And this is months of supply calculated by the MLS itself, not by me. And I'm going to assume it's reasonably accurate. And you can see that this year we're seeing a lot higher months of supply than we have in the last 3 years. It's following the normal and predictable pattern, which is where you see months of inventory usually peak in the late summer. Interestingly, it used to be June or July. We're seeing months of supply at its highest in September. Mm-hmm. So that's something for sellers to keep in mind. Like, you're better off to adjust your pricing and your marketing strategy now than wait till summer's over. Like this, because the buyer activity starts to drop, and you're looking at a softening market, not the other way around. So months of supply doesn't start to drop typically until October.
That's a point I think you've been advising sellers on, at least since I came on too, is that you really don't want to wait around until that.
Get ahead of the trend.
Yeah.
Be proactive. Be aggressive. Don't wait. And it's not normal seasonality. Everything is shifted a little bit forward, I think largely because of the school year, but it doesn't really matter why. It just is. And there are benefits to waiting as a buyer. You might get better selection. You might get better negotiation. But there are benefits to be moving more aggressive as a seller. Unfortunately, sometimes you're just at the limits of what you're willing to move, right? That's the human condition, especially if you bought the house at the peak and now you've got to stomach a loss. And that is where some of our sellers are. I mean, not my particular sellers, but some of sellers are looking at, they bought it at the peak of the frothiness of 2022 or March and April of 2022. And now they're trying to sell it. And unfortunately, the market is not as conducive to property that's not in a great location or not fully updated. And they're kicking themselves that they didn't price it more aggressively. And they're sitting on the side. They're kicking themselves they didn't sell it earlier. And now they're going to need to price it more aggressively to get it sold. And if you've blown the honeymoon period, you have to be even more aggressive. We bring new photography, new videography, more types of, but you need to bring people in to see this fresh, because most of the market has already seen it and they're not seeing it again and again. They've decided that that's not the right one for them. So you're now appealing to their value side, not to their emotional side. And it has to really represent a compelling value when you have been on the market for months and months and months.
No, that's right.
Okay, so that's our walk through the woods of how the market's doing in the city of Boulder, single-family detached houses with data through the end of April. And we'll do this again in a podcast sometime in June with data that's through the end of May.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Really solid little market update. It's great being able to look back 3 years and also have the months represented like this. your
Thanks so much.
your data expertise is shining. Compared
Well,
to the agents that are just pulling from their brokerage.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I think it's important to show people a lens on the data that's useful to them. And unfortunately, most stuff coming out of brokerages is too generic, and agents don't have the financial analysis skill set to do charts like this. So that is one of our little advantages. Okay, let's talk about sales of the week. Our first property is 9578 Mountain Ridge Drive. It is basically brand new, constructed in 2025 with a 3-car attached garage sitting on about 2 acres of land. And this is a part of Boulder that burned. There was a fire, I think it was largely a grass fire on the west side. It consumed west side of the highway to Lyons, US 36. It consumed a bunch of houses. Luckily, I don't recall people dying in this particular fire, but it definitely burned a bunch of houses and a lot of forest. And this house is brand new, reconstructed on that land. I'm pretty sure they completely demolished what was here because there's a sales history of a house. Oh, we can easily look it up. Hang on. The one, because I forgot that you can easily pull the other ones.
Oh, that's right. Now you can.
The way the house looked when it was sold in 2009 is a radically different house built in the 90s, which must have just been completely consumed. And it sold for 1.2 back then in 2009, and then burned and rebuilt. It had been on the market a while. So it was originally listed in May of last year at 5.5. And it went under contract after a really long time. It took almost a full year, and it finally went under contract. And for some reason, the listing was withdrawn at the end of that month. So it under contract and withdrawn within 3 days. So I don't know what happened here. Like, imagine you've been available for a year, you finally go under contract, and then that buyer bails out. Not entirely sure what happened, but a couple of weeks later, it was relisted at $5.6 million, which is $100,000 more than it was listed for the previous year. And it didn't take very long. It went under contract almost immediately with pending status and sold. And I'm just curious, is it the same agent? We're not going to mention names.
Can you see that? Oh, yeah, because now you can go back in history.
Yeah, I've got the old listings. Yeah. It's the same agent, so that had it listed before. So glad to see that agent didn't lose the trust of the seller. And they did sell it for 5.5. So they sold it for the full list price a year later. That's basically the story. But I really wonder what happened at the end of April. I think that listing agent probably didn't have a good day when she had to tell the seller that buyer number 1 wants out.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So let's talk about the house itself. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I was going to say is, I was on showings up this way, and I had these buyers remark that they thought that the burn scar was scary from a fire risk standpoint. I was like, well, it's burned. So it's interesting. I guess there might be a stigma for some buyers about living in a burn scar. And to be fair, it's fairly barren of a landscape. And there's an erosion risk, to my understanding, but most of the combustibles, yeah.
I mean, the trees that are dead and standing could be problematic. And in past fires, I'm not sure who did the mitigation, but a lot of the trees get cut down that are within a certain distance of houses. And that may be what happened here. There looks like a pretty clear cut line. But there are, if you look at some of the photos, you will see photos of standing dead trees that are quite distant from the house. But all around it, the grasses have burned. It should, you would think, have lower fire risk. And this particular house, it was built in 2025, which means it's got a sprinkler system. And it means it was designed with fire mitigation in mind when they, when it was designed and built. So it has materials that are less likely to burn, but in a real wildfire, everything's going to burn, right? It's going to have smoke damage if nothing else. But this is a cool house, okay? So the house that exists today is stunningly beautiful. What was designed and built is, if you're into modern looking houses, this checks all the boxes. It's substantively large at 5,200 square feet. It has a 3-car attached garage, and it's only about a 15-minute drive to the city of Boulder at most. And it's got a pool, and this pool has got an affinity line infinity almost line. If you're low enough, you're going to see that from your pool, you've got gorgeous flat iron views. Of course, everyone else probably sees you too because there's nothing else around it. But I guess,
hopefully they've got bad eyesight. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a pretty one. I think. I lost what I was going to say, but yeah.
Well, they broke 1,000 a square, which I think is right for a true luxury home. But you're going to want to look for systems, fixtures and finishes, and design that's durable to justify crossing the $5 million mark. And it also is proof that, buyers can look past historic fires. And it's always like, whenever we have a big fire, there's a couple of years where things are sideways with mountain property. And then it's almost like the buyers forget or are willing to take the risk again because it's green. And this is a cool house. Look, I would live here. It's probably about the same amount of time it takes me to get into the city of Boulder from our house.
I'd say that I remembered what I was going to say, which was that stretch of 36 to Lyons. Did you see the news recently? They're like thinking about putting wildlife corridors over it. So you might see some construction, and I hope with that comes some dedicated bike lanes.
Well, you've got the North Sky Trail right there. That's really cool. And
that is sweet.
I would love to see grade separated cycling on US 36. I don't know if it's scheduled or will happen. We'll find out.
North Foothills Highway is what that section's called, I guess.
Okay.
1,000 square foot. Yeah, I'm with you on the
1,000 per square. Yeah, 1,056. All right, and our next listing. I've got this.
We are at
versions.
751 Grant Place in Boulder. So the lower Chautauqua neighborhood.
Yep. I know this spot really well because I used to live on 8th Street, 2 blocks further north. Awesome spot if you want to run on the Chautauqua trails and attend Chautauqua events. You're always going to have cars parked in front of your house because of people trying to visit Chautauqua, but I think it's a livable trade for most situations. This particular one doesn't have a garage. It does have 2-car off-street parking. So you have a driveway to park your cars in, but you don't have a garage. It was built in the 1920s, which means it's historic, and the city of Boulder is going to pay a lot of attention to it if you want to do some sort of addition or modifications to the property in the future. And it's small. It's 2,500 square feet. It's only a 3-bed, 3-bath. And built in the 1920s, it's going to have some design features that are going to feel quaint, like tiny closets that are not particularly functional. So this is likely going to be somebody's second home, not primary home, because of those deficits. I mean, let's call them what they are. Historic homes with tiny closets are deficits in those properties, and all sorts of historic home issues, which is not uncommon. It does look like this house was very well updated across the board, including the air conditioning system. There are mini splits visible in the photos. And a Tesla Powerwall. So, it's a cool house at a great location. But some of the functional issues like, garage and closets, most of our clients would have passed on it, and we would have encouraged them to pass on it because it's harder to sell a house like this. And to point, it was listed in February at 1.275. This is really funny. The agent initially lists it at 1.275. So they screwed up the 2 and the 1, and they quickly realize it, and they're like, "Oh no, wait a minute! I meant 2.175." And it was on the market about a week, and then it went under contract. But it was only under contract a day before that buyer bailed out on March 3rd and terminated their buyer contract to acquire the property. And then so it sat on the market another month. And then at the end of March, they dropped it to $1,995,000. 2 weeks later, it was under contract. Guess what? That buyer also bails out, terminates the contract. So now we're back on market May 1st, and it goes under contract for the 3rd time May 1st, and the 3rd time was the charm. That buyer closed and paid $1,995,000. That was the price. They weren't going to negotiate, I guess, anymore. And there was a concession, though. The seller paid $17,000 for something, and we don't know what it was. It doesn't say. So a small concession to the list price, just under $2 million. Yep.
This wouldn't be considered Art Deco, would it?
I don't think so, Hamish. It looks.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Art Deco to me.
Yeah.
And while I'm not an architecture expert, we see enough houses. I don't know what I would call this one. Actually, we could look it up. Look it up on the Carnegie website to see while we hit the next one, and see if there's the historic inventory record will tell you exactly what style it's described as.
Yeah, no, this one's interesting. It's almost as though the listing agent with their, in all respect, but with their fat fingers, they almost like manifested the price.
I mean, this is so easy to do, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because the older you get, you're like, cars are only 25,000. Well, no, they're not anymore. Like a decent car is going to be a lot more than that, brand new. But your brain is tied to these old numbers subconsciously. So they fat fingered it. Not a great look. That's why we like triple check that. Like I literally, because it's so easy on the MLS to put the wrong price in. But I don't know if they manifested a lower price, but I think what manifested a lower price is the lack of a garage, right? Like I wouldn't buy this house because it doesn't have a garage. And unless I had approved plans from the city of Boulder to build one, I wouldn't buy it because the city could shut that down really easily.
Yeah. So Carnegie has this here listed as a Mediterranean style. Stucco, tile, and brick.
Okay.
To wrap that up.
There we go. Not Art Deco. All right. Our next property is 2360 Balsam Drive. And I like to call this the Alpine Balsam Peninsula. And so if you kind of follow this ridge line, you've got hold on, I'm on the wrong line. Where I just totally got lost on my little map.
I'm glad you put this one in.
So there's this little elevated hump in the middle of town, right? Sunset's on that hump. The Alpine Balsam are on that hump. And eventually, if you keep going east, you see like Valmont Butte. And I think that's also part of the geology that created this like ridge that runs more or less east-west, sort of northeast, southwest orientation to the city. And some of these houses on Alpine and Balsam and Panorama have amazing views, like jaw-dropping views. And some of them don't have any view at all. And when the neighborhood was developed, there were restrictions put in place with an architectural review committee, a design review committee that's part of the recorded title. And I know that because we sold a house on Panorama years ago, and we were warned by the neighbor behind us that don't try going up because I'm going to use this as a way to prevent you from going up. Even though the design review committee was like the developer and his drinking buddies, maybe they're all dead. There's no current design review committee. We ended up getting a lawyer involved, or a law firm involved, who advised us that, the neighbor could make your life miserable. Wow. And the only way to prevent that is probably to announce to the whole community that's in the subdivision that you're about to do a plan, show the plans, and make sure they have a time to object to them, which is what that's going to do, is going to prevent you from going up, right? The neighbor's going to fight you. So the thing to keep in mind is not every house has killer views, and not every house will get killer views because of the risk of the design review committee being invoked. This particular house is inboard, so it might get views to the south over, this is one of those houses that could have been the person complaining if you tried to go up and block their view. And it's a house that is dirt value. I mean, just look at the actual existing 50s house, and you're like, oh, this house is ready to be scraped. They did put in place some AI photographs for staging, which may or may not have any accuracy, but mostly what you see is a house that looks like a museum to the 50s. And
that bathroom especially.
And you see a good-sized lot, 7,600 square feet. And it's north-south oriented, which limits shadow lines and allows you to have a bigger build-out. And it was listed, I think, quite reasonably at 175. It did sell for 198. Likely there were multiple buyers interested in the property. We don't really know, and you never will know, right? Like that's the thing, is that the listing agents are very reluctant to disclose the reality. They may tell you that there were other offers, but they're not necessarily, like, they don't actually have to tell you the truth. And so there are ways to try to suss that out in a bidding war that we could walk our clients through, but you always take it with a grain of salt. And likely there was, and it sold for just under $2 million. So the answer is that a dirt lot that has a $100,000 demo project, or maybe a $50,000 demo project, is selling for roughly $2 million in this location, where people are building amazing dream homes. Like this is trophy home central. And so likely you're going to see a $5 or $6 million house on this lot within the next 3 years. And maybe it'll be a spec project. We don't know. But sometimes that's what happens. Other times it's people that have been waiting for years to acquire on this location. And in this particular case, the buyer is somebody whose taxable city is Mountain View. So it's likely a tech worker, an executive with a tech company. And likely they're going to build a dream home here. But we'll find out.
I was going to say, if you need any idea of the caliber of homes that this kind of neighborhood gets, just look around. Like all of the new builds and everything kind of explain why the dirt value is so much and what they can do with the space. And also this particular one does look like it has a reasonable view. Granted, there's trees and it looks like a power line in the backyard of this one. So that could take some further review too.
What I just said about, yeah, absolutely. And it's difficult and expensive to bury lines. One thing I just misspoke. I said the buyer is from Mountain View. That's the seller that's from Mountain View.
Oh, okay.
And they've had this property in their family since at least 1991. So take all that what I just said about tech workers away. That was the seller, not the buyer. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Since 91. Okay.
Our next one is 14754 Creekside Lane. And it is a home built by, I think, Arcadia was the architect. And it is just east of Rabbit Mountain. Open space. It is legally, you're part of Longmont, although you're quite a bit far outside the city. And you're pretty much unincorporated land is usually what's around there. This house itself is reasonably sized at 3,700 square feet, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 2-car detached garage. And it looks like a Colorado fantasy house because of all the protected land all around it. So even though it's only 4 acres of land, it looks like you owned hundreds of acres of land because of conservation easements that protect it. The house itself, I think, is a cool design, although it's not for everybody. It looks a little more prairie house than mountain house, for example. Less aspen, a little more Kansas mixed into the blend, Midwest. and a little dated, right? Like it's 21 years old. But the bones of it are cool, and the big garage with what I think is a carriage house above, or it might just be storage. But look at every window features this view. That's just jaw-dropping. So
I mean, it's surrounded by it, yeah.
If you want to be surrounded by beautiful Colorado pastoral land, this one checked all the right boxes with one key exception, and that is there's no mention of ditch rights or water rights. And even though you only own 4 acres of land, it would be nice to have actually gotten water rights with it. But that does not appear to be the case. It's in the Longs Peak Water District, but there are no water rights that were disclosed on the MLS. So, it would have been a good conversation with our buyer in fact we have one looking for something like this. If it had a horse barn, it would have been one that we would have wanted to go see. And then probably update the interior with a more modern color scheme. I don't know about the pink or reddish cabinets in the kitchen. But all those things are fixable, right? What is difficult to replicate is this conservation easement surrounding the property, the agricultural, pastoral landscape, and not that far from the city of Boulder.
Yeah, it's a neat one. It looks like it is zoned for 2 horses, but again, not having like a dedicated water rights kind of make a big difference. And it is part of an association too. If you've heard of Woodland Village, it was.
Nope.
Yeah.
There's no fees though. So and there was a carriage house. So there's a conforming bedroom, rec room, and 3/4 bath in the garage carriage house. So perfect for guests.
Yeah.
Awesome little property for our ranchette, gentleman ranch, hobby farm buyer.
Very cute too, picturesque, photogenic.
And this next one is kind of funny because this one has the water rights, has sitting on just under 3 acres of land, but the house itself is not particularly great. 2,600 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Only a 1-car garage, but with water rights, just outside the city limits in Longmont. Not too far from Hygiene. the house is, we saw it with a client. The house is just terribly disappointing with a lot of 50s era stuff. And likely, I remember kind of laughing at the light fixture. I'm like, at some point in time, you're going to see like this giant light fixtures are going to be kind of quaint. Like it identifies the time period. It does show as updated, but the update quality was not very good. And like my client basically was just dismissive of the house entirely. It was really just a water rights play with acreage. And we weren't quite ready to jump on something like that, but somebody was, and they paid $1,175,000. The listing originally hit the market at $1,200,000. It was only available for about 2 weeks, and then the right horse buyer came along that wants the barns, wants the water rights, wants the ability to grow crops, and wants to be close to city or close to Hygiene, close to Longmont or Hygiene. And so this sets the bar for the minimum, really, which I would say, D- house, but great location and lot. A little close to the road. That's one thing also we weren't crazy about. Was a little close to 17th Avenue. Yep. So
this one, I mean, it reads like the home of additions. Like it started out as probably like a standard 50s home, and then just like they couldn't help themselves. They kept adding like an addition over here and an addition there, and while it's like updated, it still feels old, I imagine. I mean, you walked through it, but that's kind of how it comes across to me, is it just feels old. Yeah.
All right, our next one, 903 Hover Ridge Circle, and our final one for today. This is a location that we actually have a listing at, which is why we're including it. Our listing's at 927 Hover Ridge Circle, and it's not priced terribly higher than this one. So we're kind of surprised that this one got the attention, although it's quite possible the buyer was capped out at $500. Smaller house, 2256 square feet, 3-bedroom, 4-bath. Ours is at least, 600 square feet bigger. How big is ours?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll have to check that. But it's got way more, it has many more bedrooms and a lot more space in the house for not a lot more money, and also is detached. So this is an attached 2-story townhome. And so we're kind of puzzled with why the buyer would have chosen this, other than they must have been price capped at $500. But the interior finishes look kind of similar. And ours has got kind of a spiral design, which I think this kind of echoes a little bit. And
you can see parts of it, right?
This is very affordable living in a location that I think is getting a little bit overlooked. So I wanted to make sure we touched on this property because it's not in the same price category, given we're looking at, what are we at, 540?
We are 525 now.
Yeah. So we've come down a bit. I'm surprised they didn't knock on our door, because I think they would have gotten a lot more house had they. So this is one of those things where make sure you check out the other listings in the neighborhood and see what you can do, because you never know unless you actually make an offer on a listing.
And I'll say too, looks like the buyer is represented non-IRES agent with a co-op non-IRES brokerage. So that could be why. I don't know necessarily if their guidance told them that it'd be worth it to reach out to the competition in the area too.
Well, I'm not seeing that same data, Hamish. I'm seeing...
Oh, I'm looking at Realtor.com.
Yeah, I'm seeing a Coldwell Banker agent.
Okay.
And there was a $15,000 concession for we don't know what. So it didn't really sell for $495. It really sold for $480. Which is a pretty significant discount to our listing. But even so, if you're in the market for a standalone house in a great location at a very reasonable price point that blows this house away, you should reach out to us, because we may have an option for you. All right.
Well said. The shameless self-promotion segment, Osman?
Okay, shameless self-promotion is our little few minutes for us to talk about one of our clients, or perhaps services that we actually offer. And one of the things we do for our buyers that are relocating here in particular is offer them remote viewing of a property. And remote viewing not in the CIA sense of like sitting in a chair and meditating and viewing in the house,
but sensory deprivation tank.
Full gimbaled camera with microphone to audio as we walk through the house for you, pointing out all the things that are right and pointing out all the things we see that are wrong. And it is an honest evaluation of the house. In fact, it might be more than honest in that we're actually trying to discourage you, because if you do want the house, we want you to really want the house, and that's with all its warts and faults, because that way you're not flying in during the inspection period and being disappointed and wanting to terminate. We've already told you about all the issues, and you've agreed to them when we wrote the offer on your behalf. So that service, we've done dozens of these videos over the years, and I usually sell 1 or 2 houses a year this way. It is something that is, it is not the same as a FaceTime video, right? We're talking about high quality footage with detailed discussion of flaws of the house, so that you really can feel confident in the things that we see that are right and wrong, and feel more confident in writing your offer. So I just want to mention that if you're out there looking for a buyer and you're your buyer's agent, you're relocating from a market, and the problem is with relos, you don't want to rent something and then have a double move. And you also don't have limited time windows to shop and buy when you fly in. And this sort of bridges the gap. It lets you get an honest interpretation of a house and potentially compete for that house if it's that desirable that it's going to go the first weekend, without having to hop on a plane. And then you can. Some of our clients don't even hop on the plane for the inspection, but most of them do, to see the house firsthand. And so far in doing this, we have yet to have a client be shocked that we missed something big on the house itself. In the rules, and this is, I had one deal years ago where the buyer did fly in, and we realized that the house was subject to 2 front yard setbacks, and they had big plans to expand it, and that limited their expansion window. And we didn't realize that when we looked at the house the first time, that this is going to be a problem. This is years ago. And now, of course, we know to look for that if you're thinking about buying a house with expansion in mind, because 2 front yard setbacks is going to limit your building envelope. But that, it was still a successful deal. We still terminated and got them their earnest money back, and they did lose their flight costs, but that happens with this type of situation. Okay.
Say too, these can be a lot of fun. I think it scratches a little bit of a creative itch for Osman and I. And some of the feedback we get too, especially when we've got a working relationship with remote clients, is I've seen messages and it's like, great, we just broke out the popcorn, we're cuddling up. This is going to be our Friday night movie. And it's us going through the house. And they're generally a lot of fun. And I think if you were to compare it to a FaceTime might be the second time, if you're still undecided or something, we'd go back for a FaceTime and then we could walk through together. But I mean, more often than not, I think that first, full comprehensive video just really blows away as far as a service goes. Yeah.
They're often 30 to 45 minutes long. That's our typical length. Now, they're not 5 minutes in and out of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Hamish, it's time to talk about the news and get our hot takes, and you helped put together the docket, so tell us about the news.
Yeah, these are going to be fairly quick run-throughs. I will say, this first one being Boulder, I have it in here as more or less, our carve-outs aren't about the Boulder, but maybe we could talk about it. So the Boulder is a 10K, if I'm not mistaken. That has about 50,000 attendees, if not more, for one day.
70,000.
I think maybe, I think 50,000 or 52, however many runners, and then all the support beyond that, and all the volunteers and everything. And on its face, like Osman said, it is both a party and also, I think, a very nice event for Memorial Day, and kind of the way they wrap up is really proper. So outside of that, I figured we could just talk about what we did. So I shot down, and I didn't run it this year, but I did get to kind of look at it through the lens of a videographer for the first time. So it was a lot of fun. I joke that I walked probably the same distance as if I was in the event, just going around getting shots and everything. And I learned that you cannot bring a black bag into Folsom Field, so that was a little nerve-wracking. I shoved it by the wire fence and asked somebody if I could tuck it behind their stroller, and they were kind enough to say yes. So that was a little spooky, but no, it was a lot of fun. And the energy is electric. I wasn't participating, but I was still just on that same high, and seeing all the runners come through Folsom Field, and the various stages of exhaustion, or people that look like they could go a second time. And, it was just really cool going. And I'm just stoked that I mean, it's, I think, the largest Memorial Day running event now in the world or something. I mean, in the U.S., right?
It's certainly the biggest party, and I think you're right. It is the largest 10K, but according to Claude,
10K, yeah.
52,000 participants, roughly 70,000 spectators.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
Economic impact is about 87,000 people, according to Visit Boulder's 2024 economic impact report. So it's a big event. It's a huge population bump to the city. There's a lot of people going to the restaurants and going to the shops, and of course the Boulder organizers clean up. But they also support our community in great ways. So, no complaints about the Boulder. It's just one of the most celebrated events of the year. And yeah, Folsom Field has a clear bag policy.
I
you can
learned that.
bring. And a clear bag is like $12 on Amazon. So now you know.
I strolled up because I parked down in their like garage, and after walking 15-20 minutes, and I get there and I've got my backpack on, I'm kind of sweaty, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, nobody. And I'm like, oh man. After filming all the waves and everything to start with, it was yeah, bit of a reality check. What about you? What'd you get up to
for the Boulder?
Yeah, did you
so this
spectate?
Year, I couldn't run because of this ankle injury. And so we walked the course, and we watched people run by. We connected with friends of ours that were spectating. And then we went to the field and watched the ceremony. And it was great. It was, I did get footage of the runners starting, so I'm going to share that with you for next year's content. Men running, the professional men start, I got content on, which is really
you were
amazing
early.
to see how fast they go, man. Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun event, great day, and then we had a party at a friend's house afterward that you were invited to, Hamish, and very much missed. So that was a good time.
Yeah.
Great day. One of the best days of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can spectate and have just as much fun, I feel like. So very cool.
Well, our next news stories are about open space and access to open space. And Hamish, I'm going to let you lead the way with these.
Yeah, this one, I'm really just kind of coming off the back of our events, summer things to do, closing table. So I didn't really know that there was a Boulder Trail Shuttle. So let me just read through here. I'm going to link it as well. But it looks like, to Chautauqua, Boulder's got a free park-to-park service to and from Chautauqua. It's a shuttle that operates every 30 minutes. There's one in El Dorado Canyon from Superior, Boulder, and Marshall to the El Dorado Canyon State Park. And then the Hesse Trailhead. It looks like free buses that will ferry you from Netherland High School to the Hesse Trailhead Friday, Sundays, and holidays. So, yeah, this is hiking, but if you enjoy an adult beverage while hiking and you don't want to drive, these are some better options.
Well, you don't want to fight for a parking space, so it's just smart if you're coming to Chautauqua to park at one of these locations and then hop on the free park-to-park service. It's a good service. It makes sense.
Yeah, big time.
And then
all right, moving. Yeah,
new rules for mountain bikers.
Yeah, moving right along. I'm trying to remember where exactly I caught wind of this. I think I was poking around on like a Louisville subreddit or something to that effect, but it looks like Boulder County is proposing some trail restrictions for mountain bikers, and they're kind of proposing either like days on, days off, where it's like hike only this day, bike only this day. And this particular article, and I'm a little from 50-50 on even including it, but it's very pro mountain bike and very upset at the Boulder County for kind of how they're doing. And they've got a point here, which I think is fair to an extent, is that Boulder County Parks and Open Space is one of the most well-funded open space departments in the state, yet they haven't built a single mile of dedicated bike-only trail across its 100,000 plus acres of land. So unbeknownst to me, it looks like there's a debate between kind of mountain bikers and hikers, and a little bit of tension there. I know like Shanahan Ridge and a lot of like kind of the South Boulder trails are hiker only. And it's interesting because, maybe this article's got a point, but they bring up that there's a lot of kind of mountain biking companies here and and cyclist jobs and everything. And so there's kind of the question of like, what about infrastructure for it? Do you have any?
It's been an ongoing thing in Boulder for as long as I can remember. That it's almost ironic that there's so much restriction put on mountain bikers in Boulder County and in the city, and I think that and part of that is just the early experiences people had with rude cyclists and the fear that it struck people that were hiking to have a cyclist barreling down and not knowing the rules. I still see this, right? Like on places where cyclists are allowed, they don't know the rules, and so you suddenly are like, if I'm walking around Batasso currently on a day that allows mountain biking, it's a little scary because people will come around these blind corners at full tilt
zooming
on narrow trails, and there's no place to go, and the hiker has the right of way. I get it. I ride mountain bikes too, and I also get frustrated by cyclists that arrogantly, basically almost ram hikers, and some of these hikers are elderly, so I think that's the history of why there are mountain biker and hiker conflicts, and I do put it on the cycling community for not teaching cyclists to respect the trail prioritization. Like, you're supposed to give people that are going uphill the right of way, you're supposed to give hikers the right of way, and the people on horseback are given the ultimate right of way, and that's largely because of the risk of somebody's horse startling,
getting
right?
kicked,
and throwing the rider. So, these rules exist for a reason, and 100%, I would like to see more mountain biking trails open up, but I think it has to happen with better education for the cycling community because it ain't working, right? And I'm a cyclist that can tell you it ain't working, so none of this really surprises me. That there's continue. I mean, there have been conflicts like this ever since I moved to Boulder, well over 20 years ago.
And I mean, fair. I mean, like, from the little mountain biking that I've done, speed's addicting, and I'd love to rip through a corner at full speed. But if you're sharing and especially being that hiker that gets nailed by somebody coming through the corner, I mean, it's genuinely dangerous. Yeah, even if you're not elderly. So ratchet it up.
There's spaces that are just blind corners, like on Batasso, narrow trails and blind corners. Which, like, where are you supposed to go in that microsecond that the cyclists should have been like going really slow around? Instead, they weren't.
They're ripping. Yeah. And genuinely, microsecond, and Shall we?
All right. Tell me about the Chicago MRED and Zillow battle.
Chugging right along. I saw this morning in my fog of waking up. But a judge has ordered all Chicago area real estate listings to remain on Zillow amid an ongoing dispute last week that saw thousands of listings removed from some of the most popular real estate sites. So I'm more or less just going to be reading this and paraphrasing it, but I wanted to cover because I think on our Brand Aid podcast, we were talking a lot about kind of Zillow's not necessarily vying for top brokerage in the nation, but they are vying for kind of like an MLS alternative or replacement. And I think we're only going to see kind of like a heads butt between the established MLS and Zillow. So at the center of the dispute are a handful of listings that Zillow said violated its policy. The MLS here in Chicago is called MRED. I'm guessing is a Midwest Real Estate Data. Had accused Zillow of violating its licensing agreement by not allowing the listings to be decided on the site. So it seems like a little bit of back and forth. But yeah, I wanted to kind of highlight it. I don't have much of a takeaway for this one.
I mean, I don't. Zillow is so ridiculous. In fact, you just reminded me of my ongoing battle with Zillow.
Have they still not canceled?
Over refunding fees. I've had to change the credit card number, lock the credit card down because they keep charging, even though and I've got proof our agreement ended. So they make money. So here's the background. Zillow won. All right, they built a better mousetrap, and the mice they were catching were the eyeballs of consumers, and real estate MLSs were fractionalized and a mess across the country, and Zillow built a much better graphic user interface. And then they integrated information from tax assessors, and they built an algorithmic prediction of what your home's value is, called a Zestimate. And so everyone that wants to look at house porn goes to Zillow, whether or not they're buying a real house. And the MLSs gave them the data to do it, right? So these are the realtor-owned computerized systems to communicate about listing information. So Zillow won that war, and they did it in a very aggressive way. And now other brokerages, particularly Compass, is going to bat trying to do the same thing and go head to head with Zillow. And there are still large MLSs like the Chicago MRED that are embattled with Zillow over displaying information. And ultimately, I don't know how the story is going to end. But the real estate community has sort of lost control of the MLS, and Zillow has de facto become the MLS for a lot of people. It gets more views than the actual MLS, but it also gets a lot of people that are not really shopping, versus views on the MLS through an agent portal is usually a serious buyer. So that is something to keep in mind. I think it's an evolving story. I think there will be more lawsuits. And it's just going to be battled out. Ultimately, I think Compass is... relentless marketing about this private client network is effective, because people think that it does protect the seller better from days on market. It does give them a chance to test market price. The reality is a tiny fraction of listings sell that way, but they don't tell you that. So it convinces sellers to choose Compass, even when the value add of their concierge services are questionable. So... So we'll continue to see this play out, as Zillow and Compass are the biggest 800-pound gorillas in the space. Zillow being a brokerage of its own, competing with Compass, also a brokerage, and most people don't realize that. And then you've got the MLSs that are also embattled. So we'll
just
keep
trying
watching,
to keep up, almost.
We'll keep watching the war, but I don't know how the war ends. It's going to be messy.
Yeah, at least we get front row seats. Silver lining, something to that degree. Yeah, and that wraps up news. Thanks for baking.
That wraps up news. All right, let's talk about carve-outs. Hamish, what is Noah Kalina? Or who is Noah Kalina?
Yeah, I was going to say, who are? I got like a YouTube recommendation. Noah Kalina is, from as far as my deep dive has gone, a photographer who kind of cut his chops in New York City and has since moved to upstate, I think like Timberline, New York. But he has a podcast-esque YouTube show, which he calls the Hotline Show, and it is quite a calming thing to tune into. I think at this point he's got like a standard audio like intro, and it's very synth heavy, but the way that it comes in and the shots that he starts out with are just very calming. You can imagine the upstate like lushness and the mist and everything. And pretty recently he like hiked these, I think, Watkins Glen waterfalls, and honestly kind of made me want to go. But it kind of like, I got into it, and photography is kind of an interesting creator space, because you have like hype bros, and you have like tutorial bros, and then you have like good vlogs, and bro isn't to discount here, it's just like the people. And then you also have this space of what I think I tend to gravitate towards, which is like generally fairly classically artistic, but also, and no shade, kind of this pretentious note to it. And who I'd put on that would be like, his name's James Popsies, and he's out in England, and also has kind of an aesthetically pleasing vlog and video series. And I quite enjoy what he's got to say on a lot of his stuff. But fully wrapping around, I've kind of gotten into watching some of his hotline shows, Noah Kalina's that is, and I went down like a little bit of a rabbit hole on how he came about and things. And essentially he was just somebody who wanted to be a photographer and kind of went all routes, no holds barred to get there. He came about during like early 2000s and got a few gigs with, I think like it was like an AOL world map or something, and so they'd hire him to just go to like different bars and things and take pictures, and he'd get like a certain amount of money for each picture. He started like he started out also taking headshots, doing $20 headshots on Craigslist, and apparently, they weren't very good and all these things. But a few things that are in there is like he was talking about like where you get inspiration from and stuff, and to be inspired, you kind of have to look around. And I was just like, oh yeah, here is another photographer that I can kind of look at, and I've gone through his archive, and like his website will be linked, but a lot of the shots there don't move the needle for me, but then there are quite a few that it really do, and it's cool seeing somebody's like full archive and scrolling through, I mean, almost like a seemingly endless amount of pictures, and being like, okay, that one sticks. Why is that one sticking for me? And like, is it the composition? Is it the subject? Like, is it the lighting? And kind of thinking through from a technical standpoint, but also, and Osman, we've been working on headshots, but I said to you while I was trying to take yours, is I think I'm yet to be at the point where I know what I'm wanting from my subject when I'm shooting a headshot. Like I know what shot and composition I want from a house, when I'm shooting like a three-axis gimbal movement, or like I know like how I need to work the camera to get that, but I don't yet know people. And so it's fun looking at other people and getting inspiration from it.
I've been watching quite a few videos on how to direct non-professional talent, and some of these videos also show the photographer working with professional talent and what the differences are.
Yeah,
and the people that are professional models or have modeling experience are so much more comfortable in front of a camera. But there's still techniques to working with them, like showing them what the images look like on the camera, like creating a rapport, helping people get comfortable. All of that is part of working with humans. And but people that do it professionally are at a different level than those that are not, and inexperienced human photographers, which is what I would say you and I are inexperienced. We're very experienced with real estate, but less experienced with photographing humans is a different, it's a different game. And so it's fun to learn. And ultimately I think you'll land on your own personal like way of making people feel comfortable.
Yeah. And there's the style to it, right? And it's like, what's the style and defining yourself? And the podcast that I listened to with him is he was like, I don't really like adhere to it. He's like, if I like the image, I like the image. And you see that like going through the archives, and it's interesting. One of the, while I'm here, things that, like I read an interview with him and then I listened to a podcast, and both of them brought up like selling out and then like artistic vision. And he's like, no, I don't really care about that. He's like, you've got to make money. And it's like, you don't really feel like selling out. Like, of course there's stuff that I want to do, but I'm not a diehard like gift horse in the mouth just because I want to do my artistic style. And I think that's like probably just a very grounded take on it. Yeah, no, it's cool. And maybe the Carveout was more we're doing some headshots and stuff, but it all kind of wraps
together. Well, my Carveout is the limits of AI, and that's based on some personal experience recently with two things. One is an ankle injury that's been driving me crazy for months, since last October, and it's currently May. And I finally got an MRI, after trying to just go directly to a PT, and finally got an MRI, saw an orthopedic doctor, not a surgeon. And I prefer to start with the non-surgeons because they're not cutters, right? Cutters want to cut, as the saying goes.
Fair point.
And I want to go with somebody who doesn't cut to see what they have to say. And within 10 minutes of reviewing the MRI and doing some physical tests on my ankle, he's like, you have plantar fasciitis. It's very obvious when we do the ultrasound between your 2 feet that there's thickening of the plantar fascia, and this is exactly where your pain point is. That's what you got. And he gave me a couple of different options for resolution of how to, like, the treatment going forward, and the prognosis, which is pretty good. But I thought I had tarsal tunnel syndrome based on AI and watching a bunch of YouTube videos. And the MRI is like, nope, absolutely not, don't have that issue. So there you go. And it's just 1 foot. And it's just sort of funny because AI led me down a tarsal tunnel rabbit hole to the point where I literally told the MRI technician, I think I've got tarsal tunnel. And they're like, sure, we'll scan your ankle. And I imagine that they must be dealing with so many people walking in for imaging or visiting their doctor who come with their own idea of what the diagnosis is based on AI. And AI isn't always wrong, but boy, it can lead you astray. So it led me astray with my ankle. And it also has led me astray with our camper van that has suddenly no longer been emissions ready. And I had taken the van to the emissions center, had them plug it in, and go to do the emissions test. And they're like, sorry, your van's not ready. And they didn't charge me, and they gave me some paperwork. I'm like, what do you mean it's not ready? And I've gone down this rabbit hole of what's going on with this van. And AI has like led me down step after step of diagnosing. And nothing, I've replaced the battery. I've looked for damage from rodents. Nothing is showing up. And finally, I'm like, all right, I'm taking it back to the shop that told me just to drive it. And I described the symptoms. And they called me back 2 hours later, and they're like, so, you know that security plug that you keep plugging in and out and keep telling us not to leave the secure? So the van, I had installed a product called Revelco. Revelco is like a hidden fuel pump switch. But it's way more complicated. Switch. It's like a kill switch, but it's way more complicated. And it actually, it might turn off the fuel pump. It might disconnect the starter. It might also unplug the ECU. And that's what's happening. Is that this is like completely disconnecting the computers on the van when I pulled the security plug. And I got the security plug because the vision was that at some point we might want to go to Mexico, and this van would be a fun vehicle to go through Baja or other places that are a little more likely where it might get stolen. So if we have the security plug, it's far harder to steal. Revelco claims they've never had a vehicle stolen after 5 million installs, but not stolen through the ignition, like stolen because it was towed away, not stolen because somebody like
was able to start it and drive it. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the Revelco pitch. I mean, that's their marketing. Who knows if it's true or not? But what they don't tell you is it also makes it so that if you unplug it, your van doesn't go through the required number of drive cycles so that it is ready for emissions testing. And man, I have spent months with trying to diagnose this, not like all the time, but like when I have time in the evening, I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Or you get the bug.
Let me go. Like I've removed the doghouse. I've traced every wire. I tested the OBD circuits. I thought for ground. It showed me no voltage. And it turned out that's all wrong. It's the Revelco plug, according to my mechanic. So we'll find out in a few weeks if he's right. But it's so interesting that AI led me through all sorts of other areas that turned out to not be the thing. And I'm grateful for somebody with 20 plus years of experience to tell me what's really going on. So watch out there when you think AI has got all the answers on anything you ask it to evaluate, because it can very easily lead you astray in everything from ankle injuries to vehicle emissions to, guess what, real estate. So trust but verify, and make sure you do your homework and always consult with an advisor you can trust. That actually has your best interest in mind if you're buying or selling real estate.
So,
all right,
really quick, can I?
Yep. Yeah, no, it's fun. I'd love to hear your
thoughts.
This
Revelco, do you just have to keep it plugged in for a couple drive cycles and you're good to go? Like it's not okay. Thank God. I was like, hopefully it's not like messing with your wiring or anything. Because it sounds like, actually, from what I just looked up, it looks like a really robust anti-theft. And then. Dude, I'm almost the exact identical issue. I haven't finished mine yet or found it out, but my Pathfinder, I've been hunting with AI to try and diagnose why it's not passing emissions. And I picked up a new carb-compliant catalytic converter, and sure enough, the catalytic converter is completely fine. And I think I've got, like, from what I know about cars and then the rabbit hole that I'm in with AI, I have, like, 2 more components, but I'm also just burnt out, like, yeah. It might
sure
be
both my mechanic and my orthopedic, the moment I say AI, like inside, I can see their eyes roll. They're like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go with Dr. AI or mechanic AI. That's totally not right. And it's just funny how it's so
and you don't
easy
mean to be that guy either. Yep.
I'm trying not to be that guy, but sometimes you're that guy.
Mm-hmm. Shall we?
All right, folks, you've squandered another 2.5 hours with the House Einstein team listening to this podcast or watching the video. We so deeply, deeply appreciate it. Your feedback, your trust in us when you choose us to represent you in real estate, and you sending us your family and friends as referrals means so much to us. We take that so seriously, and we deeply appreciate it. If you'd like more House Einstein content, we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out every week, every 2 weeks or so. It's at houseeinstein.com. You can see the links to sign up there. It'll also be in the show notes. And you can check out our other content on social media: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and TikTok. We are in all of those mediums. And you can always visit us at houseeinstein.com as well to learn more about the brokerage and the services that are offered through it. Thank you to House Einstein for sponsoring this podcast. And thank you, dear listener, for joining us today. We look forward to catching you next time.